This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Pasterson and Michael Remis.
What is up, everyone? Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. This is going to be a fun one. What a game last night. Had a little bit of everything. Brilliance from Connor Hellebuyck. Contributions up and down the lineup. One of the best, if not the best game we've seen Alex Iafallo give the Winnipeg Jets since he's been here in a year plus. And maybe most importantly for Winnipeg Jet fans, sticking it to the Minnesota Wild in a matchup of the top two teams in the National Hockey League, and the Jets now have a 6-point cushion at the top of the Central Division, the National Hockey League, at the U.S. Thanksgiving point of the season, which is really, really good news. Listen, we're going to hear from Scott Arniel, a little bit of Connor Hellebuyck and Alex Iafallo from the game last night. We'll discuss Ville Heinola's debut in the lineup this season for the Winnipeg Jets, and monster performances from the bottom six, if you will, of the Winnipeg Jets, who absolutely were the straws stirring the drink for Winnipeg outside of their all-world goaltender. Going to be a fun one. Sara Orlesky is going to join us coming up in about 20-25 minutes. The wit and wisdom of the well-hydrated Ken Wiebe will also be jumping on the program with us today. And then a little later on, we'll take a break from what's happening with the big club right now to get a little prospect update and find out what's going on with Shane Malloy from Hockey Prospect Radio as he's getting ready for the CHL USA Challenge. So we'll learn a little bit about that, but also want to talk to him about Kevin He, Colby Barlow, and some of the other drafted players from the Winnipeg Jets as to how their season is going in the eyes of the scouts. Just before we get into the program, tonight is our fourth edition of the Winnipeg Sports Talk, Edmonton Sports Talk Lock Shop Poker Series. I know Randy D, a.k.a. Randy River, who was second last time, is ready to go. And the rest of the crew. If you haven't played with us before in one of the first three events, you are invited to join us tonight. The buy-in is $30 or just below that. 20 euros, I believe, is what it comes out to be. Basically a $30 buy-in. And what you're going to want to do is head over to coolbet.com. Normally you might be betting sports. You're going to want to click on poker and then download the poker app, the poker software. And then when you click on tournaments there's a little magnifying glass. If you just put in lock or lock shop, you'll see it pop up. Get in there and get ready to join us. There's a $100 bounty on my head, $100 on Remis, $100 on Dusty, and I think Iwanek as well. And not only will you'll have the chance to win those bounties, but they've added in for the top two finishers tonight 2 tickets to a special Coolbet poker tourney where with a strong performance, I'm not sure whether you have to win it or come top 2 or how that works, but the prize is entry into an event in Costa Rica, a big poker event that Coolbet's putting on right now. So anyways, 9 o'clock tonight, the 4th edition of the Lock Shop Poker Series. Join us tonight, and good luck to all. Just before we bring in Remis, shout out to everybody in chat. I can tell people are geeked about that game last night, and looking on to the big game tomorrow against the Los Angeles Kings. Of course, want to thank Coolbet, Princess Auto, Rollies Transfer, Manitoba Battery, Fans First, Canadian Club, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, the Winnipeg Jets, Little Brown Jug, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, and we'll get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Let's get Remis here in here and get this thing going. What's going on?
I'm feeling good, Huss. Always nice to see the Jets take on and beat Minnesota, and they've had a lot of success against Minnesota the last couple seasons. They showed it on the broadcast. Minnesota having a great season when it comes to playing the Jets. Not so great, and I'm seeing a lot of comments already in chat. Give the Vezina to Hellebuyck. Start, building him a statue already. What an incredible performance. 43 saves on 44 shots, and after that first period when he had stopped 21 of 22, I was like, man, Minnesota might end up with 60 shots on goal here, but credit to the Jets. They had some pushback, Huss, and in the third period, they were able to find their game, and it was them who outshoot Minnesota. They outshot them, I forget what it was. 12-5 here in the third period. So it took them a while. Hellebuyck held them in it, was incredible, but credit to the Jets for finding their game, and credit to the fourth line, Alex Iafallo scoring goal number 99 and 100 of his career. Nice to have that kind of talent on your fourth line, and beautiful backhand, and just got enough of his tip-in goal, but also played a big role, didn't get a point, played a big role on the Niederreiter goal, which had me out of my seat. That was a beautiful goal.
Listen, the goal that Nino scored, it is hilarious that Iafallo gets the milestone, scores 2 last night, and yet was a massive factor in a goal that he didn't end up on the score sheet. And that just speaks to how, I don't want to call them dumb, but it was egregious what the Wild did. And he was Trennan and Jeek, and those two guys are so worried about giving an extra shot to a Hellebuyck, and then, obviously, as one would do, Iafallo gives in there, gives them a bit of a shot, and all they're worried about is, pushing and shoving. Meanwhile, Neil Pionk, who is basically behind the net, realizes this, busts his ass to get down the ice, and all of a sudden it's a 4-on-3, some nifty passing, and a elite finish later. Nino Niederreiter has his 9th of the season, and the Jets were up 2-1. It was, to your point about the first couple periods, listen, Minnesota was hungry. They were relentless on the puck. In the first period in particular, they won the vast majority of puck battles. That's why they had it more. And that's why they were able to get as many shots on Hellebuyck as they did. And I think that was a real plan by, Hines and the Minnesota Wild, knowing that it's pretty hard to beat Hellebuyck playing at the level that he's at. So you need to get 1 million pucks on net. You need to try and bang in rebounds, as they did with Jake Middleton, who got them on the scoreboard first. But Hellebuyck, and listen, let me say this right now, Remis, and to everyone. It goes without saying that we're going to be talking about Connor Hellebuyck as probably the favorite to win a third Vezina trophy. But I am here today on November 26th, 2024, to officially begin the movement of Connor Hellebuyck for Hart. This guy, and that was the perfect example last night of just how valuable he is to the Winnipeg Jets, who are, may I remind you, the number 1 team in the NHL. When we talked with Jesse Pierce yesterday, and we were saying that Kaprizov was sort of the quarter pole leader for the Hart Trophy, and I'd said, well, in some ways, I guess Hellebuyck is our Kaprizov. Well, he was the best player on the ice last night. He was the difference in the game. And, it's been, there's not a long list of goalies that have won the Hart Trophy before. Hasek, I think, did it twice. Jose Theodore did it, and Carey Price most recently. Connor Hellebuyck, with what he's doing so far this season, if he can continue it, should absolutely be in that conversation. And it takes a lot for a goaltender to be able to be in that mix, Reem, but I would suggest right now he has had a start which absolutely puts him in that conversation. And now that he's won the 2 Vezina trophies, I think the play of the team overall, the record of the team, is opening some eyes. And let's just say I'm knocking on the door of our friends at Coolbet to get me a number on Hellebuck for the Hart Trophy because I want to bet that ASAP.
Yeah, the other skater candidates, you think Nathan McKinnon, he's having an awesome season. Connor McDavid, I mean, though he's been hurt and the Oilers not quite. The points leader in the NHL right now is Marty Necas with Carolina. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, the Jets are the top team in the league. Connor Hellebuck, he's leading goalies in wins. He's leading goalies in goals against average. He's also he's now first. They updated it today. He's first in save percentage as well. He's got the goaltending triple crown, Hustler. So that is for sure an MVP candidate. He's going to be playing a ton of games. And look, he's going to be playing for Team USA as well. So, more eyes will be on Hellebuck. And it was just a fantastic performance yesterday. He makes it look so easy. He's not flailing around. He's just there. And the puck hits him. If he can see it, it's getting stopped. He doesn't let in bad goals. And as when Hellebuck's no longer with the Jets in the future, we're going to look back and be like, man, was this guy ever good? Because we're just so used to him saving everything. And it was incredible yesterday.
It was. I love the fact I'm getting a lot of support for this take in the chat right now. And yes, SK, we need Helly to defect from the U.S. It has been a dream of ours throughout this last couple seasons that we could get a Canadian passport into that guy's hands and have him playing for us at the Four Nations and at the Olympics in a couple years. Unfortunately, that will be a time where our two-time Vezina Trophy winner is on the other side of the rink. And who knows, maybe we'll get a taste of what it's like to try to score on Hellebuck instead of having him be the guy. But listen, he was brilliant. I will say, I do somewhat agree with Scott Arneal. I did think that the shot clock guy at the XL Energy Center was a little trigger happy last night. And I thought Ken did a good job, and we'll talk to him later on about breaking down that first period. Now, listen, were the Wild the better team and controlled the play more so? Yeah, for sure. I mean, the high danger chances were 5-3 in that first period. So the 22-7 or 22-8, what number I think was maybe a little bit misleading, but not taking anything away from Minnesota. They came in looking to set the tone, send a message to Winnipeg. I thought they did that. But Remis, listen, when you have great players, they're going to do great things. And Connor Hellebuck did exactly that through, I would say, about 35 minutes of the game. I thought the last 5 minutes, I thought the Jets in the second period, the Jets did a much better job of sort of evening the ice. But to be honest, my takeaway, other than the obvious brilliance of our Hart Trophy candidate, Connor Hellebuck, was the way the Jets played in the third period. I mean, that was an absolute clinic. That is how you play with the lead on the road. And this was the full team. In fact, I'll go far as to say that that was a game last night that was carried and won by Adam Lowry's line and the fourth line, maybe more so than any win so far this season. And we've talked so much about what a team this is, how deep they are. I'm not sure you'll get a better example all year than what the Lowry line and especially AI, Kupari, and Barron did on the fourth line. And the ice time speaks for itself in the game last night. Like, Adam Lowry ended up playing 17 minutes. So, you got 2:24 shorthanded time, and he's on for 14:39. When you look at the total ice time for the fourth line, Morgan Barron, 13:03. Alex Iafallo, 13:13. And where's our guy, Rasmus Kupari? 13 minutes. So each one of those guys played between a minute and a half and 2 minutes of shorthanded time. But they were all in pretty much close to double digits in ice time at 5-on-5. And I was trying to think of the last time we could look at time on ice for the Winnipeg Jets, have no forward play 20 minutes, and every forward play 13 or more, with the exception of Vlad, who I think missed a couple shifts at one point and was at 11:45. I mean, we'll talk a lot about Alex Iafallo, and deservedly so. He was unbelievable last night. But Barron and Kapari on that fourth line had one of their best games of the season. And you know what you're getting from Adam Lowry, Mason Appleton, and Nino Niederreiter. And those are the two lines that really carried the Jets last night and played a ton in the third period when they were holding on to that lead.
Yeah, the Winnipeg Jets, the one thing that's so scary about them, they can just win in so many different ways, Hustler. If their top guys are going, they're going to put on, a ton of goals. They can play these tight games with a great goaltending, or you can play these grindy games where you have your fourth line playing a low of 13 minutes. You mentioned Nemestikov, 11:45, maybe missed a couple shifts there, but I can't recall ever seeing the lines so balanced. And Alex Iafallo, great backhand on his first goal.
Oh.
And have your fourth line guy contributing on the power play as well. What a bonus to have a guy like that in the lineup, and they'll be playing the Kings on Wednesday, his former team, and I wonder if that will come up pregame, just what a big contributor he's been, and Velarde as well. Interesting to note in the game, Huss, Mark Scheifele, something's going on there. Didn't take any faceoffs yesterday. He had that big game against Florida and been kind of quiet since. So they're off today. We're not going to get any updates. Not saying anything, but it's certainly strange that he hasn't been taking faceoffs. He did record an assist. That was on the empty netter yesterday, so did get on the score sheet. But as you said, the third and fourth lines, those guys, found a way to step up. Niederreiter, massive goal. That backhand and the move that he pulled on Gustafsson, again, beautiful passing there from Nemestikov on the zone entry to find Pionk, who, as you mentioned, was cutting in. And yeah, they found a way to battle through it, hang on, and then find their game in the third period, and topsy-turvy it on Minnesota.
As far as the blue line goes, this was the first game without Dylan Sandberg, who's become such an important member of the Jets' blue line and top four, playing with Neil Pionk. A lot of people are wondering, well, what's Neil Pionk going to be like without Dylan Sandberg? Pionk was nails last night. Man, does he piss off the Minnesota Wild, too. Just seeing those guys take shots at him after the whistle and him just smiling in their mug. He was great last night. 2 assists. And, as I mentioned, him identifying the fact that 2 Minnesota Wild seemed to be very occupied with Alex Iafallo and not caring what was going on in the play as the Jets broke out 3-on-3, busting it to get up and get into the play and helping set up that goal by Nino Niederreiter was a huge play of the game. Pionk played... he was close to 25 minutes. Yeah, he was 23 minutes, 22:54. Josh obviously carried the weight for the Jets, 25:02. I thought Hayden Fleury played a really serviceable game alongside Neil Pionk in the space of Dylan Sandberg. And then, of course, Ville Heinola, who, played 12-14 last night. You could call it some sheltered minutes, if you will. But I'll tell you what, Remo, I thought Ville acquitted himself very well in his first game against a team like that. They were running to him. I thought he was very aware of when guys were coming at him, took a couple hits, but bottom line was able to move the puck. And if you go back, I actually rewatched this just before we came on the show. If you go back to the Jets' first goal, Alex Iafallo's nifty backhand, that play entirely starts with Ville Heinola back in his own end. And, he's engaged sort of with Rossi. Another Jet player comes in. He gets the puck. He moves it past another guy and through another Wild player. It was very, very deft. And the next thing you know, the Jets are running away with it. And again, a couple other guys got the puck. Ville didn't get an assist on it. But that entire play started with a very effective and efficient moving of the puck out of their zone under duress. And that's exactly the sort of thing that the Winnipeg Jets are looking to see from Ville Heinola. So I will say, first game in, I told everyone just to chill a little bit, let him get some games under his belt. That wasn't an easy place to go in and make your season debut. I thought he did a great job, and I thought he was a big part of that first goal as well.
Yeah, you look at the shot attempts, Heinola and Miller at 5-on-5, on for 12, 4, and 6 against. So, in a game where they were getting pretty outshot, those guys were steady. The actual shots on goal, 7-2, went on the ice at 5-on-5 for that deeper. So first game, we're not going to call him Villy Orr here for game one. Says somewhere in the chat yesterday. I think that was tongue in cheek, but look, he had this 2 conditioning games. It's been a while. Getting him, slowly into the lineup. Let's see what this guy can do moving forward. We've been waiting for a while. Made his NHL debut so young and then went back to the Moose and has battled injury, but he's arrived and they needed a defense, and nice to have this type of player available. Would you, like him to be a big guy to replace Sandberg's, shot blocking ability and stuff like that? Yeah, but hey, this is who they have, and they rejig the pairs. Fleury and Pionk solid, as you mentioned. Pionk playing the pest role and chipping in offensively, so we'll see how it goes. And I gotta say, I love seeing these Minnesota players all pissed off, like Ryan Hartman, Marcus Foligno. I don't really have dislike for a lot of players, except for those 2 guys. They're the worst, and it's too bad they only play 3 times this year, and this is the Jets' only visit to Minnesota, and we will be in the building December 21 on that Saturday.
Yes.
Heckling those guys. Can't wait, because I like seeing them. I like seeing them lose. Again, the Jets have just had Minnesota's number. They showed it on the bright. I think it's several in a row here, which I did not realize.
I'm glad you mentioned that. It is a great time to plug the next WST game of the month. It is, as Michael Remis said, against the Minnesota Wild. It will double as a bit of a holiday party for WST and all of our listeners. Saturday night, December 21st, heading into the holiday week. I mean, it could not be a better day with a better crew against, hell of a matchup with these 2 teams. Big rivalry game. If you were with us at the game on last Tuesday against Florida for our last game of the month, full building, full section 316, unbelievable game, one of the games of the year. Let's do it again. So what you're going to want to do, there's a link in the description, but winnipegjets.com/WST. You'll have the details on the 4 games of the month that are remaining, but let's get together and get festive for the Jets Wild on Saturday, December 21st in the WST section. Hope you will join us. Click on that link and get your tickets. The sooner you get them, the better your seats will be. You know what? I wanted to get into some of this audio, but I know Sara Orlesky is going to be joining us pretty soon. So we will have some Scott Arniel feedback. We will definitely hear from Connor Hellebuck, who had another very interesting post-game presser. And, of course, one of the other heroes last night, Alex Iafallo. But before we bring in Sara, let me give a big thank you to our friends at Rolly's Transfer for their great support of WST. Looking forward to showing you off the WST truck that is going to be on the road next month. We'll flash those up when we're done. And actually, a contest that we'll be running throughout the spring and summer for spotting the WST truck. But hey, Rolly's, family owned and operated for over 60 years, has become the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. Extensive logistics business takes them throughout Winnipeg and southern Manitoba every single day, which means flexible routes, flexible timing, and great rates for your next move. Let the Rollies team give you and your belongings the white glove treatment and take as much of the stress out of the move with you and your family on the go. What you're going to want to do is check out their website at rollies.com. Top corner, there's a feature to request an estimate. You click on that tab. First things first, put in WST in the promo code for a special little discount on moving services and supplies for WST listeners. Then let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to go. And they'll turn it around with a great quote for you real quick. And you can lock it in and get ready for that next move with the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba for over 60 years. Rollies Transfer. Find out more, request a quote today at rollies.com. Well, the snow is finally here, everybody. And you know what that means? Winter. And I'll tell you what, I think we're all ready to handle it a heck of a lot more with the Jets playing the way they are right now. But it's time to get ready for winter before winter gets you at Manitoba Battery. You do not want to be freezing your ass off on the side of the road trying to get a car started in minus 30 temps in the dead of winter. Manitoba Battery can help you avoid that frustration if you get on it now. Get down to one of the 2 Manitoba batteries. And if you're wondering about how your battery is going to stack up this summer, they can test it for free. If you need a new battery, you'll save at least an extra $10 off already the best battery prices in Manitoba. And of course, you also want to be prepared. Great sales on booster cables right now, 12 footers for under $20, 25 footers for under $60, and a 2000 amp jump starter for $129.95. Keep warm, avoid frustration, and get ready for winter before it gets you. Manitoba Battery, free home delivery on purchases over $60 and 2 convenient locations. Go to manitobabattery.com to learn more. And hey, one other thing I should mention to you. I mean, obviously there's lots of big sales this week with Black Friday here. This is the time, guys, if you need to up your menswear game, to get on down to F Apparel. Because it's the Black Friday sale, which is on now until December 2nd. Biggest event of the year. Custom suits starting at $349.95. Ties from $19. Custom dress shirts, custom made to fit, look amazing, from $49. Go online to that's EPHapparel.com. You can shop there, or I would suggest pop down in person to 190 Smith Street to take advantage of these incredible deals. The F Apparel Black Friday Madness sale on now. Don't miss your chance to suit up in style. 190 Smith Street downtown, and that's EPHapparel.com. All right, we'll get to some audio from last night's game in a bit. Ken Wiebe coming up at the top of the hour. But let's check in with our pal Sara Orlesky, who joins us now. Sara, what is up? How are you doing?
I am doing great. How are you doing, Huss?
How do you think I'm doing today after a game like that last night? Spirits are high. Vibes in the chat are at extremely good levels, and they should be. You know, you beat a team that, let's face it, it's always great when the Jets win. A little better when you're beating that team in the fashion that they did last night. And I mean, hey, this entire start's been magical. 18-4 right now, on top of the NHL, and you know, it's been amazing to see them win in so many different ways. I mean, listen, Connor Hellebuck was absolutely brilliant. He made sure the Jets were in that game when Minnesota really pushed in the first half, 35 minutes. But I will say this, I come away from that game with the way they shut it down and put a clinic on in the third period after taking the Wild's best shot, figuring out that this team's learning how to win in different ways. And, while it wasn't perfect, and obviously they would have loved to have been more dominant earlier on in the game, their goaltender gave them a chance to win, and the rest of the team stepped up, especially the third and the fourth line last night, Sara, were so good. I can't think of many examples where we talk about the fourth line being the driver, but that's exactly what it was, and that's what really good teams can do. It's not just your top line. It's not just your power play, winning in a lot of different ways.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the things that's impressed me most about the Jets throughout the start, and is that they have found different ways to win. And I think that because of that you look at as going, well, this is the sustainable levels of play that we can expect to see throughout the season. And you're going to see ebbs and flows. That's inevitable. Nobody is going to win, 78 games out of a season, but you do need to be able to sustain and weather those ups and downs. And I think that with the style of play that they are playing right now, they'll be able to. So you look at it, they had to rely on Connor Hellebuck, especially early on. And you hear all the talk about how he, just put his name on the Vezina right now. But one of the things that I think is great is that he has been so solid this season, but unlike in some seasons previously, you haven't had to rely on him as being the dominant reason why they came out with 2 points. So will there be games where he needs to be? Yes. Was that first period one where they relied on him a great deal? Absolutely. But they are getting contributions throughout the lineup. Their blue line is helping out on both ends of the ice, and we're seeing them on the score sheet as well. And that fourth line, I don't know if we've ever, or at least not in a number of years, have spoken about a fourth line the way that we have about this fourth line with the Winnipeg Jets. We don't always see them rewarded on the score sheet, but certainly you can tell that the coaching staff has a great deal of confidence in them, rightfully so, because of the contributions that they've been making, which aren't always just seen in terms of goals, assists, plus and minuses.
Well, I mean, that was the thing. I mean, Iafallo had that monster game last night. I mean, he scored 2 and was a central figure in the second goal where he wasn't part of the scoring play, but managed to piss off 2 Wild players enough that they completely forgot about what was happening on the ice. And next thing you know, Nino Niederreiter is scoring a highlight reel. But I think you nailed it. The confidence that this coaching staff has in the fourth line. I mean, Adam Lowry's line is going to be out there in high leverage minutes in close games late in the game. I don't know if we've ever seen a fourth line that has been trusted the way that Iafallo, Barron, and Kupari have been in the third period last night and in recent games. And they have been absolutely full marks. We were going through some of the analytic numbers, for Ville Heinola with the shots for and the shots against while he was on the ice. And, I think they were playing minutes where they were kind of on more with the Lowry line and the Kupari line. And it makes sense. Both of those lines, especially in the third period, absolutely carried the play. And, you know that Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor are going to get theirs, and Nikolai Ehlers as well. But, man, if you can have games turn based on your bottom 6, you combine that with an all-world goaltender and can win a lot of hockey games, and that's exactly what the Winnipeg Jets have been doing so far.
Absolutely. And you look at the stretch that they're on right now in this long road trip, but really in general with just the feels like such a condensed schedule to start because of that big break with Four Nations. You need to be able to rely on your fourth line, to be able to take some of those minutes away so that you don't have to hide them or shelter them. And I think that when you look at the players that are on that fourth line, we've seen Alex Iafallo be used in a variety of different ways by the coaching staff last season as well, up and down the lineup, filling in for various players when injured. So maybe he's not your typical fourth liner in that respect. Same thing. We've seen Morgan Barron have success with Adam Lowry's line before. So they have skill sets that can be utilized advantageously by this coaching staff. And I think that it gives the rest of the team confidence too, that you're able to put them out there after maybe whether it be a penalty kill or various situations. And that is key if this team is going to have success longer term, because as great as what we're seeing now in November, and it is, and we'll take it all day long, obviously you want to be able to see it translate into late April, into May, and see what they're able to do then. But this is when the foundation is set, and this is when the habits are built, and this is when the confidence is built, the style of game that they can just continue to grow, rolling 4 lines.
Well, and listen, that's why I think that third period was so impressive. And we all knew what the score was, and we all knew how the game had went for the first 40 minutes. For the Jets to come out, and I think it really did start at the end of the second period, but for them to come out, I mean, against a desperate Wild team that put almost 40 on Hellebuck, and they don't even get a shot for the first 10 minutes of the third period. I mean, I tell you what, Arnie and Payne and Chenot, they should keep that period. And then, at game 82 and 81, when they're getting ready for the playoffs, I mean, that felt like playoff style hockey last night. And I mean, they went out and did exactly what you want your team to do, especially those depth players, leading them team to victory. And, just quickly, you mentioned Hellebuck talking Vezina. We've actually now moved on from the Vezina. We're officially now starting to talk.
Yesterday,
we're
talking
about the Hart Trophy now. It takes a special goaltender to even be in consideration for that award. But I think now with 2 down, the Triple Crown, I mean, goals against, save percentage, wins, he has to be. And Jesse was on with us yesterday, and we were kind of talking about Kaprizov and the amazing season that he's had, like a true superstar on that team. And I kind of said, well, Hellebuck is kind of our Kaprizov, if you will. He keeps playing like that, he will be in the conversation for the Hart Trophy, and it's rare that a goalie gets real legitimate conversation. But tell you what, if they can keep this going, he will be in the mix. But I wanted to ask you about Alex Iafallo, because you obviously, being very close to the team, have some pretty unique access. He has always seemed to me like such an interesting guy, a guy that is a little different. He's an outdoorsman. We were all wondering how he would fit into Winnipeg when he came in the big trade from LA. I don't know how he's fitting in off the ice. He certainly seems to be doing well, but man, what a versatile piece of this team, helping out on the power play, big time penalty killer, and selfless player on that fourth line that is now, well, I mean, as I said, the fourth line was at 13 minutes last night. No forward played over 20. That is as balanced as we may have ever seen a Winnipeg Jet lineup. And man, he was on one last night, scoring his 99th and 100th goal, and of course being a big contributor to the winner.
You didn't even know this, Huss, but it's the perfect segue if we can go off the ice for a moment, because coming up in December, we have a home ice feature with Alex Iafallo, and he is very outdoorsy, and he talked about, which I am not. So everything he talked about, I said, this is great. I don't understand any of this, Alex, because this does not seem like my cup of tea. But he is loving being in Winnipeg. He is not one that likes to stay indoors, as he likes to put it. This is a perfect situation for him in terms of being able to go out, whether it be fishing, hunting. He loves to go out and see the province and see, the northern parts of Ontario and the western parts. And you talk to him and you'd think that this guy had been around for an extended period of time with the way that he's able to talk about various locations throughout our province and surrounding areas. So he has been a great fit off the ice. On the ice, absolutely. The way that they are able to utilize him, again, if there's an injury, you can move him up the lineup with special teams. I think of that trade with the LA Kings and what the Winnipeg Jets have been able to get out of that trade, the benefits that they have. Could you imagine not having Gabriel Velarde in the lineup, Alex Iafallo? You see Rasmus Kupari and the contributions he's able to make. Kevin Cheveldayoff did a great job with that trade, finding pieces that will fit, players that will fit into this system. And I think that what I loved was that that dressing room is one that seems very cohesive to me every time I'm in there. And I was talking with the player the other day, actually, just about the record that they have. And, if you walked in there, you wouldn't know that they had set NHL records for starts and that they had been on the roll that they had. And one player just to me that it's just a quiet confidence that they have. And so nobody walks around going, look at us, look at what we've done, because they recognize that their game hasn't always been perfect and that there is still much more to go in this season. But there is a quiet confidence with this group that they just expect to win. They expect to play the right way. In order to do that, you need to have players like Alex Iafallo in the lineup, buying in and contributing. And he is in a variety of different ways.
Well, and you know what? I think there really is something to be said about how similar this team is to last year's team. I mean, obviously they made a couple trade deadline acquisitions in Monahan and Toffoli that left, and Brendan Dillon, everyone loved him, but Dylan Sandberg, who's injured unfortunately right now, has filled those shoes admirably. But I mean, pretty much everybody else outside of Rasmus Kupari was a regular last year on the team, and we all know how the season ended in the playoffs. And it seems like the Winnipeg Jets have come in realizing that they have something to prove to themselves, to the fans, to the rest of the National Hockey League. They have certainly done that up until this point, but we're just starting this journey right now. But that element of determination and proving night in and night out that they are one of the top teams in the league, I think has really kind of been the driver for the collective in winning 18 of their first 22.
But I don't think that you can underestimate the continuity factor for it, because we have seen, look no further than even Nashville, when you bring in a number of new players that play significant minutes that are high profile right away, and it just hasn't taken hold the way that people down there would have hoped. Well, you look, yes, you have a new head coach in Scott Arniel technically, but obviously his familiarity with the roster and the team, well, I think that it just gave them an advantage to be able to start this season with so many returning players, with a returning coach in terms of Scott Arniel as well. And I like that this is a team, I think, that looks to find it from within. That they know that, you're not necessarily going to have the big splash at free agency in terms of the really high profile names, but you don't have to have that. You can build from within, you can grow from within. And there is a determination in this group, especially that core group, I think, to show that they are ready to take that next step. It's not reasonable, I don't think, to expect greatness or thing right off the hop. And so this is a team that is built. They have grown together. They've learned those lessons together. And I think that because there is this camaraderie in the dressing room as well, and the way that Kevin Cheveldayoff has put these players together in kind of these puzzle pieces of making sure that everything fits, that this is a group that wants to win together. They like each other. They want to have success together. We've all, I think, if you've played sports and you've been a part of a team in which people are getting along and you're pulling the rope in the same direction, you want to win for each other. That's the sense that you get from this Winnipeg Jets team. And I think that it bodes well for going forward. Do they have to take that next step? Absolutely. All you can do right now, though, is play the games that are in front of you with where you are in the schedule. They are getting the job done, and we'll just continue to see whether or not they're able to keep that up as the season goes on.
It's funny you mentioned, it's hard not to mention the Kings trade, coming off a performance like that last night with, Iafallo and Kopari being 2/3 of an absolutely dominant fourth line that, produced the way that they did. We know what Gabriel Velarde's meant to this team. By the way, WST listeners, Dennis will be on with us tomorrow. Always love talking to Dennis. The Kings have been sort of up and down, not a bad start, but they haven't done well against the top teams. We'll see how things are going on in LA before the game tomorrow with Bernstein when he joins us, and I'm sure that trade will come up. Moving forward, though, Sarah, we knew this was a crazy road trip. When you think about starting in Pittsburgh, ending up on the West Coast, going down to Texas and back up, but 2-1 on it. Obviously, they lost in Nashville on Saturday night in the second end of the back-to-back. What a test, though, coming up. 3 teams all above the playoff line: LA Kings, Vegas Golden Knights, and the Dallas Stars. And listen, the Jets have been up for every test so far this season. But this is a big one over these next 3 games before they get back for one quick game at home and then get back on the road again.
I said to Scott Arniel before in our coach interview at the last home game, I said, I feel as if every time I talk to you, I say, well, you're just home for one game, because of how much they have been on the road in this last section. And, as much as we talk about the 6 games in 10 days on the road right now, you also think they're in a stretch of 15 games in 15 cities. They don't play back in that stretch. Well, they don't play back to back at home. They're in a different city all the time, which is a crazy stretch to be on. And as much as they have, everything provided for them to try to make it as easy as possible, it doesn't matter how you're flying. It doesn't matter how much food is prepared for you. It is still tiring to be on the road constantly, hopping onto a plane and going to a different time zone or a different hotel. But it is a crazy stretch. LA has been very up and down. They haven't been able to get any momentum going. They just got clobbered in San Jose for it, but they have played well at home. So we'll see what happens there. And every time you go into Vegas, the rivalry that exists between those clubs. And then Dallas, sitting third in the Central Division, is certainly not a team that can be overlooked. And I think so many people had them pegged to be maybe even at this point leading the Central Division as they find their game and continue to progress. That they're a team that can't be taken lightly. But the Jets have been able to general rise to the occasion when we have seen blips on the radar throughout, whether it be this road trip or the games every other day. We've seen if they've struggled, it's been for short periods of time, and then they've been able to turn around. And that's really what you're looking for, because you're never going to, we all know you're never going to win every game. That's not going to happen, but you just have to make sure that if you have 2 losses, it doesn't become 3, that you're able to stem that tide and get your game back on track as quickly as possible. And we saw that with the way that things ended in Minnesota. They were able to find another way to win They got the 2 points. Now let's see how they do on the West Coast.
Bring on the Kings tomorrow night. Late night start, folks. 9:30 p.m.
That's the only downside. The late start. Oh.
Listen, you're usually out in the club till 12 or 1 anyways. You might just have to come home early to actually see the game tomorrow.
It's really gonna change my Wednesday night plans.
Hey, speaking of plans, word on the street, did you see a spectacular show on the weekend? Is that true?
I sure did last weekend. Yes, I took my daughter and we went to Toronto and we saw Taylor Swift. It was phenomenal. And I fully admit, I admit to being a Swiftie. Always have been. This is the 3rd time that I'd seen her. But this to me was not, I've said to everyone that has asked about the show or that has also gone and seen it, it doesn't seem right to describe it as a concert. It's more an experience. And to see the way that everything got taken over in the city was pretty remarkable. And you had everyone in costume. You had 50,000 plus people. In this day and age, to have over 50,000 people in experience where everyone's singing along for 3+ hours, everybody is happy and getting along, it just doesn't happen. So there was an energy unlike anything I had experienced before. And it was great to see whether there were 5-year-olds or 75-year-olds. Everybody was in costume and buying into it. And it was really special. And I give Taylor Swift a tremendous amount of credit for how that woman is able to perform the way that she does, because I was exhausted the next day and I was just standing. So I cannot imagine performing that show multiple nights in a row.
Yeah, it's listen, it's something unlike I think anyone's ever seen. And listen, I'm now into my 2nd season as a Swiftie. Ever since Taylor, of course, joined us, got us one of these.
Of course. Okay.
And listen, hey,
I should have known that's how you became a Swiftie.
Is there anything that this woman can't do? She won a ring her first year in the league. And now looking...
She's unstoppable.
Now looking to try to keep that magic run going for a 3-peat, which hasn't been done before. Anyways, though, I did want to ask you because, obviously, it's impossible not to see some of the photos and videos from this tour, which is the all-time biggest, I think, spectacular in, literally in the history of the world for a show. So the fact that Canadians and you and your daughter got to see it, I was pretty jealous and wanted to ask you about that. Hey, listen, before we go, fill us in. Check in, which is leading into Winnipeg Sports Talk, 12:30 on game days. You and JT will be at it tomorrow. Home ice, runway. Give us a quick little dossier of all the content that's coming out on the number 1 team in the league. I love saying that.
All right. Well, so as you mentioned, so on game days, Jamie Thomas and I are doing check-ins, which runs from 12:30 to 1. I know that so many of your great, loyal viewers have maybe started their lunch hours or come over and spend a little bit of time with us. We see them in the chat, so that's great. We love it. We look forward to it even more. And so we work really hard, Huss, to make sure that we are off at 1 o'clock. I think one time we went a couple minutes early or late, and we said, okay, we've got to go because Winnipeg Sports Talk's already started. Huss is already going. But we're having a lot of fun with it, and it's just a relaxed format where we can have some conversations about what's going on with the Jets and get you set for the game that night. We have Runway, which is off to another great start. We're working on getting that 3rd episode out to people looking at this historic start to the season. So you're obviously not going to want to miss that. And then the first episode of Home Ice for this season is set to debut this weekend with Scott Arneal, which is great. It's to be able to catch up with him and just talk a little bit about his connection with this city, what he loves away from the rink, that sort of thing. And like I said, we've got one with Alex Iafallo that'll be coming out in December as well. So we're keeping very busy, lots of content over there. Our social media team and our video team continue to produce a lot of content to try to not only connect you with the Winnipeg Jets and keep you up to date from a news standpoint, but also help you get to know some of your favorite NHL players just a little bit better.
You better be making sure that you got that North Face jacket and ready for the extreme cold, because let's face it, this team is here for the entire month of January. And I see a wonderful content opportunity for you to roll with the fellas out onto Lake Winnipeg for one of those ice fishing junkets that they do. Would make for great content, Sarah. Just saying.
As I think I already told you that, much like when I talked to Alex, so I'm not really outdoorsy. Also, I spent many years freezing on the sidelines. So in fact, it's been sometimes so cold inside the rink that I joke that I'm going to do my opening on the broadcast wearing a toque and a winter coat again, just to take me back to my sideline. Hey,
listen, you
days.
Can bundle. You can look like an astronaut, whatever. Just get out there. You're prepared in the elements.
People will expect it. Sarah in a toque? That's shocking news.
Sarah, thanks so much for doing this. Looking forward to you and Jamie getting things going tomorrow at 12:30 before WST on another edition of the Check-In. You can check that at the Winnipeg Jets YouTube channel and on the website. And let's do this again soon. Glad you had such a great time last weekend. And we're all having a great time watching this team continue to stay on top of the Central and the West right now.
Thanks so much, Huss. Always appreciate the time.
Good stuff. There's Sara Orlesky. And again, the Jets YouTube is where you're going to find the Runway Series, Home Ice, and the Check-In every Winnipeg Jets game day, 12:30 p.m. with Sarah and Jamie Thomas. And don't forget, speaking of the Jets, winnipegjets.com/WST. Join us for our next game of the month, Saturday, December 21st, heading into the holidays. We will get festive, and hopefully it can be season's beatings once again on the Minnesota Wild, who the Jets took out last night. Ken Wiebe is going to jump on with us coming up in a few minutes. We've got some awesome content in the chat right now. You know what? Let's get to some fans first fan feedback right now. Fan feedback is brought to you daily on Winnipeg Sports Talk by fansfirst.ca, your best option at buying and selling tickets in Winnipeg with no fees. What you see is what you pay, and by far your best option if you are a season ticket holder, have a couple extra tickets for a game that you have to move, with the best customer service, ease of changing the pricing for it, and quick payment the day after the game. Fansfirst.ca. Check out the site and use it if you haven't already. Listen, the chat is hot today. Lots of love for Hellebuck. Spency, Hellebuck should wear his sunglasses at night to guarantee the Corey Hart Trophy. I knew Spency would take us somewhere there. But yes, we are now officially talking about Heart Watch for Connor Hellebuck. Cole Sawchuk, this is about Alex Iafallo. Coolest thing about Alex is he never had any beef with having to leave LA and come to the Peg. I think in a lot of ways, this has been, a great move for him. Certainly he's on a really solid team. He's doing a whole bunch of different things. Listen, he's got a contract that maybe is above where he's playing regularly, but last night was a perfect example of just how important Alex Iafallo is to this team. And, we've seen a lot of games like that so far this season. Let's see here. Matthew Jansen, luxury to have a fourth line like that. It's more like a third line. And I don't know, was it a couple weeks ago? We talked about them having a Lowry line-like performance. They did it again last night and then some. It has been great. Kabilis, I don't think I've ever been this confident with the bottom six since the Jets came back. The only way you could compare this team is to 2018, when with the additions, at what point you had, Brian Little, of all people, playing at times on the fourth line. There's a lot of great stuff. Let's see here. We've got some other really good ones. Yeah, only Dallas is fear what they played 2 games. Yeah, more Corey Hart stuff. And James in the Peg, I think Helly can get burned out. Comrie can take all the sub-500 teams. And Greens, the Wild didn't beat themselves. They lost to the Jets, just like usual. And lots of statue talk as well. I think we can probably get the plans going that. That is fan feedback brought to you by our friends at Fans First. Fans First, by fans, for fans, no fees. Check them out today online at fansfirst.ca. All right, Ken's going to join us in just a couple of minutes. You know what? Let me shout out our friends at Princess Auto for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Founded in Winnipeg, headquartered in Winnipeg, and now coast to coast, but with 3 locations to serve you in the Peg. Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, and Brandon. It's the Mega Smasher sale right now on at your local Princess Auto, as well as online, megasmasher.ca and princessauto.ca. The best deals of the season at the perfect time. All those Black Friday deals, Mega Smasher style at Princess Auto, ready for you at your local location. And by the way, big shout out to the team at Princess Auto. I got a chance to check out Bell's Kitchen on Saturday. It is opening on Thursday, 12/12 Nairn, the Old Tony Roma's. If you like barbecue, if you like great drinks, if you like live music, you're going to absolutely love that place. I think we're going to probably end up going down there and doing a show at some point soon. But we'll tell you a little bit more about that going forward. Unbelievable new addition to that side of the city, just off by the Princess Auto HQ. So I don't know. I guess I threw some stuff on my Instagram story. It's probably not there anymore, but we'll let you know when we're going to head down there. But as I say, barbecue, unbelievable. Exactly what this city's needed for a long time. Highly recommend. Opens on Thursday. Goes with great barbecue. How about a little whiskey? The holidays are here, and what a perfect time for the gang at Canadian Club to release the Canadian Club Classic 18-year-old high proof as the second issue of the Invitation series, out now at Manitoba Liquor Marts, but in limited quantities. It's Canadian Club's first ever 18-year-old whiskey. The elevated expression offers the well-known, smooth, well-balanced taste of Canadian Club Classic, carefully aged and bottled at a higher proof for a full-body tasting experience. The 18-year-old high proof was also just awarded gold at the 2024 International Wine and Spirit Competition. It won't be around for long. So whether it is for personal consumption over the holidays, entertaining, or a gift for the whiskey lover in your circle, get it before it's gone. The Canadian Club 18-year-old high proof, available now while supplies last at your local Manitoba Liquor Marts. And before we bring in Ken Wiebe, got to give a shout out to our friends at Wallace & Wallace. Of course, the fencing and overhead door specialists in town since 1946. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, or if winter's done a number on your old one, give them a call. Vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood fences, all available. And if it's time to replace your garage door, Wallace & Wallace has Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors, one perfect to match your home and add value to your home as well. Give them a call, 452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. Check them out online as well at wallacefences.com, or pop down to their showroom on Lawson Crescent off of Keniston. All right, let's get Wiebe in here and get the show on the road. Kenny, what's going on?
Andrew, good afternoon. Great to be with you down at HQ today. So good day. There's Paul Samin, the man in charge.
You got called into the principal's office or what?
Well, I'm not sure it was the principal's office call, but it do have some expenses I had to take care of, and I'm not the best bookkeeper, as you know, Huss. I do have my receipts, but it's quite a procedure. I do have to say that shout out Margaret McMillan, the big helper here. But I have to say that when she sees me coming, probably tempted to run the other direction, Huss.
Oh my God, I remember Gary going through all that before.
Oh man,
you probably learned it from him. The long line of incredible accounting Big J journals right now. Well, good luck with that process. I'm sure
thank you. It's going to be a while
to it. Hey, let's just get into this last night. Listen, you can tell the vibes are high in WST today after a win over, of all teams, the Minnesota Wild. This was a team that came in second overall in the NHL.
Right.
Now, Jersey did win, so the Jets still have 4 points overall in the league, but 6 points on Minnesota, now 10 points on Dallas, and another example of the Winnipeg Jets finding a way to win in another way. Hellebuck was brilliant for the first half of the game. The Wild were putting everything they could on him. and then it was the fourth line, led by Alex Iafallo, that does the damage. But to me, Ken, the takeaway, and we're all focusing on how can what is happening right now relate to postseason success. An absolute clinic in the third period with the game on the line. One of the most impressive 20 minutes the team's played all year. Taking a game that maybe they were fortunate to be up in and leaving absolutely no doubt in the final 20.
Yeah, Huss, it's really interesting. I mean, the Hellebuckian performance would be reminiscent. I would say first period was reminiscent of the third period against the Colorado Avalanche. If we're going back into the hot tub time machine momentarily here, this was the second game that the Jets were pretty reliant on their goaltender to win. But as you mentioned, Huss, I mean, the biggest takeaway from me in this game, yes, the Jets can't win this without Hellebuck, but they went full boa constrictor mode in the third period in terms of shutting their opponent down completely. And it's interesting. I mean, having seen Rick Bowness recently on that Florida road swing, Huss, what we saw from Minnesota was their frustration mounting, and all of a sudden you have those hopers that Rick called. The hope plays were everywhere in the third period for the Wild. They totally got frustrated and discombobulated and started throwing kind of blind passes in the middle and the neutral zone that were broken up. And the Jets found another gear, and they had to, because they weren't skating in the first period the way that they normally do. The Wild made them look slow for one period, but it was a complete contrast in the third where the Jets made their opponent look slow. And as you mentioned, I mean, a big part of that was the play of, I mean, again, third and fourth lines I don't want to use, but the Adam Lowry line, absolute, blunt force trauma again in this game. So impressive. Lowry, 4 shots on goal, 6 shot attempts, rewarded with an empty netter. And then Iafallo, I mean, what a game for Iafallo. I mean, outstanding work. He's involved in 3 of the goals. 2, he's heavily involved in 2 of them with the 2 goals, but one of his biggest plays of the game doesn't end up on the score sheet. It's first coming to the aid of Connor Hellebuck and then completely disrupting both Joel Eriksson Ek and Yakov Trenin for no reason in particular, which led to that odd man rush the other way and the Nino Niederreiter goal. So and again, I can't go too far without mentioning Rasmus Kupari. I am the driver of the Gus bus, but Kupari, that type of play, using his legs to create a turnover and then having the presence of mind to find Alex Iafallo lurking in the weeds, that's why right now Rasmus Kupari has the leg up in this competition, Huston. We go back to training camp when it was probably an even competition. Kupari's speed has been an absolute, I wouldn't say revelation, because we knew last year he was fast, but his ability to get some things done with his speed this year has been what has sort of separated him in that race for the 12th forward job. And, he's not giving Gustafsson much of an opportunity to get into the game. I mean, in one game in 22 so far. So anyways, you're bang on. I mean, third and fourth lines, absolutely exceptional in this one. Not a ton going for the Jets' 2 scoring lines on a number of fronts. And Huss, I mean, not to transition, but I mean, Mark Scheifele has to be injured. I mean, when's the last? I mean, I know that the 17 minutes and change were more related to him having to serve the longest minor penalty in the history of the NHL, 8:05 with that coincidental minor. I mean, just absolutely bizarro land, right? I mean, there just was no whistle to let him out. I got a couple text messages during the game, one from Marshall. Marshall Patterson's like, "What's wrong with Scheifele?" I'm like, "He's in the box and he can't get out until there's a whistle." Like, people are wondering, why isn't Scheifele out there? Well, he couldn't be freed from the Free Villy movement is also topical this afternoon, Andrew. But I mean, free Scheifele. I mean, he couldn't get out of the penalty box. So anyways, I mean, the top 2 lines didn't have a whole lot going, the scoring lines in that game, but the checkers and the grinders really checked in with a big effort overall. And again, that second power play unit, Huss, we've talked about it a lot this year. Obviously the top unit doing a lot of damage, but the reason the Jets are still first, I believe, I haven't checked today, but with the goal last night, I'm pretty sure they're still first, is because both units are contributing, right? Off the top of my head, I'm going to say that's got to be 7 or 8 goals for the second unit, and the top unit's in double digits. So I mean, that is an incredible accomplishment and an achievement for early on in the season here.
Well, and you know what? It's funny because I just pulled this up. Yeah, Jets are still first in the NHL, 33.8% on the power play. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the number 2 team in the league in power play is also the number 2 team overall in the standings, and that is the New Jersey Devils. I mean, you know, we see like the difference between winning and losing some of these games really can come down to one play, the ability to put one past. And, you know, if you're killing your penalties pretty well and scoring at a really high rate on the power play, you know, that can be the difference in a game that so many games are relatively close at 5-on-5. So, no, it has been big. And yeah, I'm with you. I mean, there's obviously something's up with Scheifele. He's able to play. I mean, it's not, it doesn't look like he's, you know, not into it or really being hampered, but the fact that Gabe Vilardi's taking every single face off and has looked a little different. And I do wonder if this wasn't the final week going into a selection of Team Canada, whether he might, I guess we don't really know what it is. So if it's just something that you can easily play through, but it hampers a couple things and do it, but we don't really have any information on it. But I do wonder, because I really do think that he is looking to have, to put his best foot forward in this final week, because I think we know how important this is to Mark and how much he would love to have the opportunity to represent Canada with the best in the NHL.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he obviously wants to be on that team, but I don't think he wants to do it, you know, in terms of maybe hampering his own play during the year. So again, all we're getting is banged up. Again, we don't know the particulars. He's still able to shoot the puck pretty well, even though I do think there was at least the one time and probably at least 2 where Scheifele looked to pass when normally I think he's looking bar down in those situations. One of them was with Hayden Fleury, I want to say, on that 2-on-1 rush. But anyways, still playing hard. And again, we're 1 week removed from a hat trick where it was probably Mark's best game of the year. So it's interesting to monitor. And again, if it was something that was easy enough to, you know, you take a day or 2 off and it's back up to speed, I think they would already be considering doing that. But Mark's a competitor. He wants to be in the lineup. He knows his team relies on him. And again, I think he's still battling through. It just, that line hasn't been quite as impactful in the last couple of games here, and it's probably related to that injury. But again, Kyle Connor, you know, rips one off the bar, pretty dangerous. Yes, they had they were definitely hemmed in a few times in the first period, but all 4 of the Jets lines were hemmed in during that first period when the Wild came on like a house on fire and generated 22 shots, even though, you know, line of the night, Scott O'Neill, the person keeping the shot clock fell asleep on the button.
Yeah, it did. I was glad that on KNR you pointed out like the high danger chances were 5-3.
Almost
like,
even. Yeah, exactly.
Like, listen, the Wild were bringing it. I mean, they're the number 2 team in the league.
They were buzzing.
Like, for sure. And they were shooting from the dressing room. I mean, they were putting anything they could
from
on
downtown.
net. And listen, good on them. I mean, that's how they got the Middleton goal. I mean, you know, a quick rebound and a guy that wasn't caught up and boom.
Right.
You know, it's in your net. But I mean, Hellebuck has been, as I said today, we've officially on this program, Ken, moved on from talking about the Vezina because it's about time people started legitimately talking about Connor Hell. It takes a lot for a goalie to be in that conversation.
Sure.
But listen, based on the first 22 games of the season, a 15-2 record, leading the league in wins, shutouts, goals against average, and save percentage, it would be criminal if he does not get legitimate consideration if he can keep things rolling the way it is right now.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. But I mean, it's a long, you know, 3/4 of the year to go to stay in that conversation. I mean, if they were handing out the award today, bang on. He's definitely a finalist, and he's probably the front. He's probably the leader, and he's probably the winner. Kaprizov could stake a claim to that belt as well, Huss, even in a game where I wouldn't say he was quiet, but I mean, he had 5 shots on net and 12 shot attempts. And I actually
what about that play he made from behind the net?
Oh, ridiculous pass. Ridiculous pass. Ridiculous.
Not many guys on planet Earth can do that.
All world. And I mean, I know you had Jesse Pierce on yesterday discussing. I mean, that's a great example. I mean, Kaprizov was everywhere in the game yesterday. And at the same time, I think the Jets actually did a pretty good job of keeping him in check, even though he still generated a ton for himself and his line mates. It's just it's a reinforcement of how good a player he is. And Huss, I mean, he's totally changed the complexion of how that team plays, right? Since he came over, they're a lot more fun to watch, even though they can be stifling defensively. Man, they're a fun team to watch, and he's a big reason why. So, but yeah, I mean, Hellebuck's been absolutely brilliant. I mean, fourth goalie ever to start, 2 losses in his first 17 starts. Or sorry, what did I? Yeah,
15 wins in first 17 games.
Oh, just crazy, right? And what Nabokov, Brent Johnson, and Tiny Thompson.
Some guy named Tiny, yeah.
Tiny Thompson from the 30s, or 29-30 season. So we're going back a ways, but I mean, what we're seeing, we talk about this quite often, Huss, and I think that we talked about this on the show last night. I mean, his best save of the game doesn't look like the best save because it's not acrobatic, but that drop pass Hartman makes to Johansson in the slot is just an obscene save. Like, all of your body is going the other direction, but he still finds a way to get squared up on it, and it looks like it basically just hits him in the chest, but that's all positioning and ability to read and react. And man, just the numbers themselves are so impressive. They're minuscule. What he's doing is just absolutely exceptional. And Huss, I mean, we've moved on from this a long time ago, but to be getting this type of performance and longevity out of a 5th round draft pick, it's just absolutely elite. And the story was they were going to watch the other goalie in that game, right? I mean, Rick St. Croix was down to watch the guy at the other end, and Hellebuck ends up just ended up turning into a franchise pillar and a foundational piece, and someone who should spend his entire career with the organization, and already probably best goalie on the planet. But the more we see this, the more we're starting to wonder, and Sean mentioned it yesterday, I mean, we may be looking at basically one of the best goalies of all time, and he may spend his entire career somewhere in one place here, which, is something that, we expected, for a time, we expected that to be that way for Patrick Waugh and, Brodeur and some of the other legends who, had other stops later on in their careers. But it's just been really impressive, and definitely getting, more recognition, league wide. And, it's probably, what took you so long, scenario, but he's just definitely been, absolutely elite. But the best news for the Jets, Huss, now that's basically game 2 out of 22 where he was leaned on a little more heavily. Like, his numbers have been outrageous, but it's not just the Hellebuck show in these 22. He's been awesome, but it's the Jets' ability to make life a little bit easier for, the majority of those, so 15 out of 17 starts is one of the reasons why, it's not like the old days where the Jets were giving up 35, 40 shots like it was going out of style. So that, I don't want to say that hurts his cause in the MVP and the Hart Trophy race, but it's definitely something that people around the league are kind of looking at also. Well, if they're making life easier on him, well, how could he be the MVP? And I'm not saying I think that way, but I do think that it's an interesting debate and discussion because the Jets have gotten a lot better defensively, but on the nights where they're not as good defensively, Hellebuck's over here to say, hey, don't forget about me. I'm elite. And yesterday, Huss, it was one of those days where it seemed to be, he seemed to be so locked in. It was one of those things where, yeah, is that all you got? Because it's going to take more than that to get one past me kind of scenario after he gave up the goal to Middleton on the rebound earlier on.
Hey, Remis, if you can, I want to play this with Ken here and get his reaction to it. Can you get Mike's first question to Connor about about Bill Guerin? So I'll let Mike set it up. This was the first question of Hellebuck's post-game availability after the game at the XL Energy Center. Ken's colleague, our friend Mike McIntyre, throwing this one at Hellebuck. Check this out.
Don't usually have the GM of the team you just beat coming over to congratulate you, but I'm guessing he was wearing his Team USA hat.
No comment.
No comment. A sly smile.
No comment.
And again, we didn't really see what happened, but apparently
Oh,
Guerin came over.
I'll paint the picture here.
Okay,
So,
fill us
Huss,
in.
for folks who have not been to Excel, so they do. It looked like they were doing the interviews in the. There's a side interview room where the TV situation sets up for their intermission interviews. Sometimes it's a bit chaotic, especially in a such scenario where the Jets are flying 4 hours after the game. So they did the interviews on the side, but so. There's a hallway down there. The Wild room is passed. So I think that Guerin came over to say hello to Kyle Connor and Connor Hellebuck. And it's just such a weird scenario. Yes, people say hi all the time when they know each other, but given how fierce the rivalry is, Huss, you don't often see someone saying what's up to the other team and, handshakes and whatever else. But because of the, as Mike prefaced, because of the Team USA scenario, I mean, the Jets don't see the Wild until, I think it's after Christmas, right? They play them right around Christmas time. Maybe it's the 21st, the 21st
Saturday night.
And
WST
as sad as
night,
that
get
is,
your
Huss,
tickets now.
as sad as that is, that's the last meeting of the regular season between these two teams.
What is up with that? I thought.
Well,
you
there's
played
every
your
year. It's
division
two
teams.
teams. No, every year there's at least two teams that you don't out of the 8. I think after Utah coming in, I think it's 2 teams that only get the 3 games, and it's disappointing. That those teams won't play again until potentially the playoffs, because man, what a series that would be. Anyways, so and Connor is, I don't think that we know Connor sometimes is not a huge fan of the interview process. Like you said, sometimes he can be when he's in the mood, he can be so insightful. After games, he's so dialed in that sometimes it takes, we hear mostly cliches from Hellebuck, but in that scenario, I think he's probably not wanted to give too much away, and it's kind of one of those weird and awkward exchanges with someone he doesn't probably know Bill Guerin super well, and I don't know, maybe he feels like it's something that the reporter shouldn't have seen, but it's one of those things that, Huss, when you see it in plain sight, it's so weird to see as a reporter. So of course you're going to be asking the player about it, and again, we don't know what's being said, but would it be surprising if Bill Guerin went over and said, hey, congratulations to those 2 guys? Maybe it's as simple as that. Maybe we're reaching. We know the Team Canada is super under the radar, no hints being given, but I don't know, Huss. To me, I've only had a couple of exchanges with Bill Guerin and chats briefly. One of them was about Mason Shaw during the preseason, so haven't ever gone deep with them, but Bill's not really a guarded individual. So if he's out there backslapping guys who, Huss, you and I think those guys are on the team. So I would imagine that Guerin is also thinking that those guys are going to be on the team and playing a prominent role. We both expect Hellebuck to be the number 1 guy. And Huss, I think the only question for Kyle Connor is going to be whether or not he's playing with Austin Matthews or if he's playing with Jack Eichel, right? I mean, if I'm running Team USA, I'm thinking Eichel just because of the right-handed center and maybe sort of similar style in some regards to Mark Scheifele. And the other thing about that too, right? Austin Matthews played with Matthew Tkachuk in the program. So, probably those 2 guys riding shotgun, and maybe Brady's on the other wing, but Brady could also be on the wing with Eichel and Connor. I mean, there's all kinds of opportunities at their disposal. But anyways, it was another one of the classical Hellebuckian quotes that will go down in history, this time more for what was left unsaid than what was said. It was not a TO next question type of scenario, but it just seemed like to be a topic that he was not interested in delving into.
No, it wasn't. But if you watch it, like his sort of sly smile at the end, like I didn't know whether he was going to start laughing or whether he was going to do one of his stare downs to Mike. But anyways, appreciate that moment. Hey, before we go, while we're talking 4 Nations, I mean, listen, Scheifele has had a great season so far. That game last Tuesday against the Panthers, in my opinion, was the statement game against, the standard in the league. Where are you at right now on Scheif's participation? If you had to peg a percentage a week before we get it, are you giving him a strong chance, or yeah?
I still think that, again, unless there's something medically that will prevent him, and again, I don't think there would be anything medically that you're still playing through that would prevent you from playing in something 2 months down the road.
Yeah.
again, I would be in the I'm not in the 100% where my podcast partner is, but I'd say it would be in the 75 to 80% category. And Mark's done his job. He's put his stamp on the season, and I would also say too, Huss. I mean, Brandon Hagel, 5 helpers the other night. I mean, that was, and Hagel's someone on my list. I mean, Sorelli is a guy who could be on the radar, but for me, I think Hagel's on the team. A very sharp defensive player who also has some offensive upside. I think he'll be on a checking line and can kill some penalties and also produce. I do think that Mark is on the team. I think Josh is on the team. Josh did a great job knowing what was coming on the back end here with Dylan Samberg being out. 25 plus minutes for Morrissey. I think for me, the only question is if you're playing Morrissey with whether it's Alex Pietrangelo, Colton Parayko, if he works his way into the team, or even if you try him with Makar. I mean, I think that'd be a super interesting pairing, even though, yes, we're all assuming that it's going to be Devon Taves beside him, but I still see two Jets being on Team Canada for sure. And again, I think that Lowry's been under consideration for sure, but I just would say too, like us, I mean, guys like Sorelli would have a leg up just because.
Hey, what about Sam Bennett?
Coach. Yeah, that's what I mean. I think I was going to go to Bennett. Bennett just a little bit more offensive upside, and he has that physical snarl, and won the cup, and been to 2 finals.
I want to see Cooper put Bennett up against Tkachuk. I want Panther on Panther crime in that event. I mean, he's one of the guys that has chops in the game that could actually go toe to toe with him. It might create a very bizarre
strange
situation.
Dynamic. Yes,
but I'll tell you what, I'm like, hey, you want to be in the team? No problem. Just FYI, Sam, when we play USA, this is going to be your assignment. Hey, before we go,
maybe he'll go after Brady instead.
Yeah, good point.
Which could also cause a little bit of disruption there.
Just quick thoughts on Ville Heinola. Listen, he played 12, almost 13 minutes. One thing I didn't hear discussed very much last night that I kind of went through, and I just rewatched the first goal that the Jets scored last night. And if you go all the way back to the beginning of that play, he's in a battle with Marco Rossi. He gets a little bit of help, moves the puck through, then goes around and through 2 more guys, gets the puck up, and the next thing you know, Alex Iafallo is in the back of the net. I mean, for what I think is expected of him, right now, he played 3rd pairing minutes just to get him going. I mean, by all accounts, a pretty nice start for a guy that hadn't played an NHL game in, what did you say, like 22 months?
Yeah, 22 and change. January, I think 20. Well, it might be 23. Sorry, never mind. It's January 23rd against the Leafs. So I liked a lot of
23 minutes.
Yeah, I liked Ville's game a lot, Huss. Simple, but effective. I liked his, we knew the offensive side wasn't going to be an issue. Love the box out on Marcus Johansson early in the game. It will sound strange, but I actually like the fact that he took a big hit from Marcus Foligno, I think, in the second period and got up from it as sort of a reminder of, things are happening at a little bit different speed than they were in those 2 conditioning stint games.
If you're going to play big minutes against teams like
you're going to get hit.
Guess
what?
You're going to
get hit by Marcus Foligno. But I do like the fact, simple play, getting it over to Miller on the dump in, and then Kapari creates. I like that there was a lot of really smart D2D plays. I liked, I think as he gets more and more comfortable and his conditioning gets up, he will join the rush more. But I liked how those pairings worked out. I really loved Hayden Fleury's game, Huss. How I've talked about his game this year. Showed that he could handle the second pairing minutes. I know it's small sample size, and there will be bigger tests ahead coming up on the remainder of this road trip. But both the combination platter of Pionk playing well with Fleury and also Miller and Heinola working well, that leads me to believe that if that can happen for an extended period of time, the Jets, will do their best to survive with life without Dylan Samberg, which forever how long that's going to be, it's going to be a big loss. But the complexion changes a bit, but I like that they have an offensive guy with, I wouldn't call Colin Milner a stay-at-home guy, but he has a good defense. He has a good versatility in terms of knowing that on that pairing, he's going to be the stay-at-home guy mostly. And he also plays with that edge. Fleury knows exactly what his role is, playing with Neil Pionk. He uses his mobility well. Again, got activated when he needed to. And overall, I really liked everything that we saw from both of those pairings, quite frankly, Huss. They were very good.
Well, on to LA tomorrow. Looking forward to that one. I'm sure you would prefer an earlier start time for a very much after dark edition of KNR.
No problem.
But
We'll enjoy it.
Look forward to that one. And then, listen, 3 great tests for the Jets as they finish up this road trip. 2-1 so far. 3 more games. LA, Vegas, Dallas. All great tests. Can't wait for tomorrow. And can't wait for Mike and your reporting on it all in the Winnipeg Free Press. Junior, take it easy, buddy. Thanks as always.
Have a great day. Always great to be with you, and enjoy the rest of the week. I know there'll be plenty of Bomber talk for the remainder of it as well after some more of the speaking engagements at the podiums.
Yes, we're going to get to that in a little bit. Some kind of interesting news as it pertains to the upcoming season. Of course, a big trade today with VA on the move. You have a good one, dude. Thanks so much.
Take care, Huss. See you later, man.
All right. We will be getting to some off-season CFL news relating to both the Bombers and Vernon Adams on the move. Shane Malloy is coming up in just a second, but first a quick cheers from our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
We're not just for the showboats or the champions. We're here for the good ones. The ones who work hard and show up for others, not to get recognized, but because it's the right thing to do. We'd like to think that our good intentions show up in our beer. We keep working to perfect it, not because we want fame or fanfare, but because you deserve it. 1919, the good you deserve.
All right, cheers to our friends at Little Brown Jug and to our friends at Boston Pizza. Of course, BP will be a great spot to be for the game tomorrow night. You got the happy hour specials, pick a player, and all that fun stuff. But hey, with the holidays coming up, the gang at BP has a great promo right now. Buy a $50 Boston Pizza gift card and receive a free $10 bonus card. And if you're purchasing $1,000 in gift cards or more, you'll receive an additional 10%. So if you have a long gift list or need to buy for your company or office, it ends up being a 30% bonus on gift card orders of $1,000 or more. Of course, BP is also a great place to have your holiday party. You can try the new holiday menu in the dining room, or have a casual party in the sports bar, or have the BP catering team set up and serve at your office. And you know what? I think Remo and I might be trying the new holiday menu items. The spicy shrimp fettuccine and the rib and wing duo. Maybe we'll plan that for Thursday with the Thanksgiving Day games in the National Football League. And we will have a $50 BP gift card to give away later on today. But Boston Pizza right now, a great gift card special heading into the holidays and your place for Jets hockey on the road. And of course, got to shout out the gang at Royal Sports. They are going crazy right now. Black Friday sales on. Heading into the holidays, your number one spot to take care of all of your Christmas shopping for the sports fans and athletes in the family or in your circle. The biggest and best selection of Winnipeg Jets merch you'll find anywhere. Tons of Blue Bomber gear and exclusives you won't find anywhere else. And the best in merch from the National Football League, all NHL teams, baseball, basketball, international soccer, and of course the biggest and most stocked hockey department in town. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Black Friday sales on right now. Give them a follow on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops, sale information, and holiday gift ideas. All right, let's welcome in the brains behind Hockey Prospect Radio, our pal Shane Malloy, who's getting ready for, what is this, the CHL USA Challenge, Shane?
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. What I've been advocating for, and many others, is be able to get the U.S. National Development Program or the USHL and come up and play in a top prospects game against the CHL players. Because, back in the day, 20 plus years ago, it was far more competitive and nasty. I remember the 2003 in Kitchener when Dion Phaneuf and Paul Bissonnette went throwing haymakers against each other. Now that kind of game has left us, and I don't want to say it's an all-star game, but it's not as competitive. And I think this type of format is going to make it far more competitive because there's going to be bragging rights. The Americans are not going to want to come up here and lose to the Canadians, the CHL players, and the CHL players are not going to want the Americans coming into their barns and winning. So I'm really intrigued to see that standpoint, but also it's a really great opportunity for the scouts just to see some snapshots of these players in these 2 games. And it's just 2 games, but it's nice to see them in a different environment and how they handle it.
Is it all draft eligible players?
All draft eligible players. So it's a U.S. National Development Program, the U18 team, against the draft eligible players top of the CHL. So there are 10 WHL players in the lineup out of the 22. So it's a heavy dub draft. So it's going to be really interesting to see how those players, can handle the situation. And I think it's going to be a pretty heavy dub draft to begin with for the NHL draft this year in LA. So I'm looking forward to seeing how, they kind of churn out and get better as the season progresses.
Is Roger McQueen in this one tonight?
He is not, which is really unfortunate. But, there are some pretty good other dub players. And look, the Moose Jaw Warriors obviously represented with Lyndon Lakovic, big strapping kid. If you want a power forward, go look in the dub. Or you want a big, lanky defenseman who's mobile and plays, an NHL-style playoff game, always go to the dub. The WHL actually produces more NHL defensemen than any other league or in the world. It's just like, when in doubt, you want to find a defenseman, go to the dub.
Shane, while we've got you here, I wanted to ask you about a couple of young men that have been picked in the past by the Winnipeg Jets. I got to tell you, we had a great time talking to Kevin He at the draft in Vegas when he got selected. And there was a lot of fanfare, being the first highest Chinese-born draft player ever. He came and made a great impression at Winnipeg Jet training camp. And man, from all accounts, he is having an absolutely monster season. What can you tell us about the Jet 4th rounder and the impact he's having in the O this year?
Well, that's something to be said to the amateur staff. So, Craig Heisinger and Mark Hillier and his amateur staff of unearthing a player that could potentially play 4th round. Like, the opportunity and the probability of a 4th round pick playing 200 games or more in the NHL, you're pushing like almost single digits, 10%, 11%. It's really low. So it's to be able to potentially get a player out of that. And, it's great for him to come in and show the staff what he can do and then really start off the season exceptionally well and gain that momentum, feel confident about what he needs to do throughout the season. So it's a great story in itself, and hopefully he keeps that moving forward. And I think sometimes because, the Winnipeg Jets staff is they're conservative, they're patient, and sometimes they don't get enough credit. And I have to give them credit. You look at their scouting and their player development efficiency from 2011 to 2015, they're in the top 10 in the league. Top 10. They had 12 players to play more than 200 games or goalies to hit 50-plus games. 12 out of 38. They're over 31%. And that's in the top 10 in the league. So if they can continue that from, you look at the 16 to 20 and potentially 21 to, into 24, 25, if they can keep replicating that, that's how you keep a sustained long-term winner. And that really comes down to, Jimmy Roy and their player development department, Craig Heisinger, Mark Hillier, and all their scouts like Pat and Vladdy and Shell and, Finner and, Brian Renfrew and Scott Scoville and Chris Snell. Those guys put in a lot of miles, and that's the backbone of the organization. And I think you're starting to see that. And then some really astute trades that the pro scouts have made. And it's added a lot of depth to this organization, which is like part of the reason why they just keep coming at teams and keep winning. And it all starts with the draft and player development.
Hey, what's the word on Colby Barlow? In a new spot, obviously there's been some change with him, a bit of a slower start. Where's he at right now?
I wouldn't be worried about him because, look, his game is predicated on work ethic and drive and passion. And it's about once you move into a different environment, you're going to play different systems. The coach is going to ask you to do different things. You're going to play with different lineups, line mates as well. And I think that takes a lot of time because you have to change some of your habits, to change some of your behaviors to adapt to this new environment. But I'm not worried. Look, the kid's a gamer. And if you're looking at how the playoffs are played in the NHL, you look at what GMs covet at the trade deadline, what players they covet at free agency, everybody's going after a player like Colby Barlow. He's a playoff style player. So I'm not worried about him at all. This is going to be a guy that the Winnipeg Jets are going to love. But you have to be patient with these players. It really is a 5 to 7 year run before, by the time they're drafted, by the time they get into the NHL, to the time where they can actually be productive in a playoff round. That usually takes 7 years. And it's okay that it does, because that's normal. And sometimes we get, a little impatient about, well, we want to see the new shiny toy get in right away. But unless you are the McDavids and the Crosbys and the top, 10 picks of the world, it generally takes 5 to 7 years to really hit your stride. You get past that age of 23. And I think the Winnipeg Jets do things the right way when it comes to not only their evaluation, but also their player development. And I find, and they've never admitted this to me personally, but I always find that they draft to the floor of a player and not the ceiling. They want to know that this player can play in the NHL. And then they'll work on getting him to what they think is his perceived ceiling and what they expect him to be. But they have certain characteristics of what they want in a player, and it's evident when you look at this roster.
Hey, just on Barlow, how's he faring for a potential inclusion on Team Canada at Christmas?
I think he should be a lock. You want to win in Canada, and you want to be a leader on that team. I think he's a leader on the team. It's because sometimes you lead in the dressing room and sometimes you lead on the ice, and he can do both. But particularly when the games get greasy and it's a one or done, you need a guy that makes great choices. Now, there's players on the ice where they make really good decisions with the puck and they make smart decisions and puck management, and then there's choices. And choices are different. Those are the guys who are going to take hits to make plays. They're going to go to the greasy areas and take punishment. They're going to do whatever it takes. They're going to sacrifice their body for the team and the betterment of the team and to win games. And that's what Kobe Barlow does. And those type of players are not that common. So I fully suspect that he's going to be a member of Team Canada and lead the way physically, because we always need some of those guys that are going to do all the greasy, dirty work and get those tough goals, because championships are won right at the crease, whether you're defending or whether you're trying to score goals.
Well, and he can pull the trigger from pretty much anywhere. That is one thing that he is absolutely known for. Hey, before we go, while we're at it, Braden Yeager, of course, we've been kind of seeing a somewhat slow start as a pro for our old pal Rutger in the American Hockey League right now. The other side of that trade's Braden Yeager. How's he doing right now? And I'll ask you the same question as to how he might project to be on Team Canada for the World Juniors.
I certainly think he should be there too, because he's going to be a danger on the power play, and he brings in an energy and a pace to the ice that's really needed. He's a highly skilled player, and he's just a player that needs to be patient. And that's one of the things about the CHL. When CHL players jump to the American Hockey League, that's a massive jump. I think sometimes we do not give the American League enough credit across the hockey industry, particularly, within the media or with fans. It's the second best league in the world, and throwing a 20-year-old into the American League, that's tough sledding. I've had lots of conversations with Jimmy Roy about that, and it's hard work for those players to get through. So that's why I like the fact that CHL players are going to be eligible to go play in the NCAA, because if they're not quite ready for the American League, they can go play a year or two in college, play against kids that are 3 years older than them or 2 years older than them, and then get ready for the American League the next year or maybe 2 years down the road. And it's a great opportunity for their development. So I advocate for the CHL players to go play in college hockey.
Okay, well, listen, I'm glad you brought this up, because it's something we could probably talk about for an hour, to be honest. But, Jeff Merrick was on with us last week, and we got into it a little bit. And when I knew you were coming on, I'm like, I can't wait to hear from Shane as to how this is all going to work. Who's going to benefit? Who's going to be hurt? I mean, a big picture, 2-3 years down the road, how do you think this is going to change the developmental path for players in Canadian hockey in particular?
Well, the difficulty is understanding what's going to happen 2-3 years down the road, because when you pull a string on that tapestry, it unravels, and it's the law of unintended consequences. We don't quite know what the impacts will be for youth sports, will be the impacts for Junior A in Canada, for Junior A in the United States. But certainly what it does is it changes how the development pyramid works. So it'll be Junior A in Canada and the States will be at the bottom, and then CHL and USHL are going to be in the middle, and college hockey in the United States is going to be at the top because of the age gap. Like, the average age in college hockey in the United States is 21 to 21 0.5 years. And in the CHL is 18 to 18 and a half. That's 3 years. Now, the players may not all be as skilled or as the same elite level hockey sense, but they're bigger, stronger, faster, more mature players. So that, I think, is going to really help the NHL in terms of giving the NHL organizations an opportunity to put their prospects in a different developmental path once they get past the CHL before they have to go play pro. So I think that is going to be a benefit. But how it's going to affect youth sports in Canada, how it's going to affect Junior A in the United States, how it's going to affect Junior A in Canada, we don't quite know what that is going to be.
What about the rule for 19-year-old CHL players having to go back to junior and not being able to play in the American League? Is that going to change, do you expect?
That's a possibility. So we don't know as of yet what the changes may or may not be in the CHL NHL agreement. That hasn't been revealed to us, so we don't know about that. We don't know if there's going to be what or if any changes are going to be made to the NHLCB in this regard, because behind closed doors, the NHL and the NHLPA are doing their due diligence. So those things we don't quite know yet. I would expect there will be some tweaks and changes, but I'd love to tell you what's going to happen in that regard. But it's funny because I was on Jeff's shows last year, and I remember Mike McMahon and I, College Hockey Insider, started talking about this in January, and I can't tell you how many phone calls and texts I got saying, "You guys are crazy. This is a non-issue. This is never going to happen." And then 11 months later, it happened even faster than we even thought. So it was a tumbling effect, and we're on Jeff's show, and he agreed it's going to be settled by lawyers. Lawyers are going to tell us how it's going to happen, and the college coaches really didn't have any impact or any say because they're just trying to avoid a class action lawsuit because the NCAA has lost pretty much every lawsuit that's ever come across their desk. So they was actually one of the first times they were really proactive. So it's going to be interesting to see how this changes the hockey landscape, but it's a great opportunity for the CHL in terms of being able to piggyback the brand of the NCAA. It's a massive brand. It's a great opportunity. The USHL does it very well, and now the CHL is going to get that opportunity. And I'd like to see more collaborative work on the business side. Not like, yes, there's going to be competition over players, but this is an opportunity, a business opportunity for hockey to collectively work together so we can get rid of the sort of the pissing contests that go on and realize that this is a business opportunity. It shouldn't be hockey versus hockey. It should be hockey versus basketball or hockey versus football or hockey versus every other entertainment product that's out there. We collectively, from a business standpoint, have to work together because it's going to make our game that much stronger.
Shane, always love having you on the program. Fill people in on Hockey Prospect Radio and all of your reports from seeing these draft-eligible players go at it in the CHL USA Challenge.
Well, we're lucky because we're going to put on a whole show on this weekend on Hockey Prospect Radio and Sirius XM NHL Network Radio. I suspect last week we were aired 9 times, so we'll probably be in somewhere between 7 or 9 times. People will get sick of us. So if you have Sirius XM, you can listen to it there. If you miss the show, we're on the Sirius XM app. So both myself and Brad Allen, we're going to go do 2 hours, just full breakdown of all the players at this event. So, and these are all the players are going to be draft eligible coming up this year. So tune in and we'll try to break it down the best we can.
Well, certainly will do. And hopefully we can connect in a few weeks as we get closer to Christmas in the upcoming World Junior Tournament. Shane, thanks so much as always.
Anytime, big guy. Talk to you later.
Good stuff. There is Shane Malloy, Hockey Prospect Radio, weekends over on Sirius XM NHL Radio. All right. Let's get Michael Remis back in here. I do want to get to some of this audio that we've been saving from the game. The conversations have just gone a little long and have been so much fun with Sara and Ken and, of course, Shane. But, Remo, before we do that, and again, we'll talk a little bit about the big poker tourney tonight, 9 p.m. Hope to see you guys there over at Coolbet. Some big, and Ken sort of alluded to, some big CFL news and some significant Blue Bomber news today as we kind of dive headfirst into the CFL offseason.
Yeah, we have a trade to announce in the CFL, big one. We're wondering what was going to happen with this quarterback carousel, and starting with BC. They have Nathan Rourke and Vernon Adams Jr. They've made it known Nathan Rourke is going to be the guy moving forward, and Vernon Adams, he's under contract. What's going to happen with him? Traded to Calgary. I mean, it's just draft pick swaps. BC gets 3 picks, and Calgary gets Vernon Adams and 2 picks.
The picks going to Calgary from BC are a 25 fourth rounder and a third rounder in 26. Meanwhile, BC is getting from Calgary the 9th overall pick this year, the 29th overall pick this year, and a second rounder in 2026. So we knew that Vernon Adams was going somewhere. I kind of was leaning Edmonton, but everyone that was tabbing Calgary as the team that VA would move to. You are correct. He's staying in the West. And it's a big, big improvement for a Calgary team that's picking first overall. And I was talking this with Dusty on the Lock Shop today. Like, it's got to be 25 years since the Calgary Stampeders picked first in the draft. Probably longer, to be perfectly honest with you. So anyways, huge news in the CFL regarding Vernon Adams. A little bit of Bomber news as well. Kyle Walters spoke earlier today. And Richie Hall, who, of course, was more of a defensive consultant as Jordan Younger took over the defense as the DC. Richie Hall's been granted permission to interview with the Red Blacks for their defensive coordinator position, according to Kyle Walters. You've already got Ted Gavaya and Danny McManus interviewing for the GM position in Hamilton, and rumors of Buck Pierce being the number 1 candidate for the head coaching job in BC. So we could have some significant turnover to management this year. But this one's quite interesting, and this is just out from John Hodge, and you can read on it at 3 Down Nation. But Kyle Walters and Mike O'Shea unlikely to sign long-term extensions with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers this offseason. And, again, I'm not going to get, too worried or anything like that right now. I mean, we've seen this happen before with Mike O'Shea, and he certainly has stayed. But there is something about the finality of next season, Remis, with this era of Blue Bomber football in a lot of ways, in that the team is hosting the Grey Cup. They will certainly do everything they can to reach a 6th straight Grey Cup and win the damn thing for the first time in 4 tries. But there is the potential, both from a player standpoint, and I think you have to include management and coaching staff, that this maybe could be the end of the run for at least part of this nucleus of great success for the Bombers over the last 5+ years.
Yeah, we've gone into final years of their contract before, and we've been kind of played this game. But yeah, this next season will be an interesting one for the Bombers. As you said, players are getting older. The Grey Cup is here. They've gone to 5 straight. Can they make it 6? And after that, we'll be seeing, the turnover for the Blue Bombers. So this is kind of what they've done, Walters and O'Shea, not sign the long-term extensions with years to go. They kind of wait till, it's up. We had that O'Shea watch a couple years ago. And, maybe there's some talk about losing 3 straight. You got to switch it up. I mean, I don't think you're going to find a better head coach, Huss, than Mike O'Shea. So that would be a big loss if he were to move on. But we're looking ahead to this upcoming season. They're the guys running. We'll see who's coming on for the ride. If Buck Pierce is still in, or is Richie Hall in, is Ted Gavaya and Danny McManus still in? Because that's what happens when you win, Huss. Other teams look at your organization saying, what are you doing? Who can we grab? And it's actually crazy that there hasn't been turnover in terms of management.
I agree.
Or coordinators. It's really, really impressive. And Mike said last week at the press conference, they've planned for this. If Buck goes to BC or Edmonton, they have a plan in place, and we'll have to wait and see what that plan is. But I think they've been preparing for a while to have someone take over if he were to be hired.
Yeah, we'll touch on this tomorrow or Thursday. Now that most of the end of season interviews have completed. And of course, we're now starting to get moves. Certainly hoping for a few more re-signed Blue Bombers to be announced over the next little while. Sergio Castillo already back with the club, but some clarity and finality on Buck Pierce, Gavaya, McManus, as well as we get into the CFL offseason. All right, I've got some great stuff from Coolbet coming up. Big Thanksgiving Day 50% bonus promo which I'm going to tell you about in a few minutes, as well as details on tonight's poker tourney. But we're not done talking about this win over the Minnesota Wild. We're going to max this out on this program. And as I said, we went a little long with conversations, myself and Remis and Sarah and Ken. We do have some good reaction from the game last night. Let's hear from the head coach, Scott Arniel. Arnie talked afterwards about the game and made that comment about that first period shot total.
I think the shot guy fell asleep on the button. No, but Minnesota does. They throw a lot of pucks in that front, and there was. I mean, we went and looked at our scoring chances. Certainly didn't reflect what all the shots that were coming. But they are a team that likes to throw pucks there with bodies around there. I thought we did a really good job of finding a lot of the rebounds and kind of clearing them out of there.
39 shots through 2, but then they only got, I think, 5 in that third period. Is that as much about what you guys were doing as opposed to maybe what they stopped doing?
Yeah, I think that, like the first period, there was like it was kind of, it felt more like a feeling out. They probably had the upper hand. I thought in the second we started to get going where we weren't very good in Nashville in the second. I thought we did a better job of kind of being heavy, kind of, they were going to get some looks, but I thought we did a good job of every time we got the puck below the goal line, our offense got going and we got some zone time. And that was a heavy lifting game for everybody. It was hard to kind of, off rushes to get really clear chances, real opportunities that way. And I like the way the guys kind of felt it. And they get the puck down and low, and then we went to work from there.
All right, so Scott Arniel's comments on the game last night. Connor Hellebuck was Connor Hellebuck last night, but what a game from Alex Iafallo, impactful throughout the full 60 minutes. 2 goals, including his 99th and 100th of his career. Here's what Arnie had to say about number 9 last night.
Awesome. For him, that's 100 goals, NHL goals. That's a great accomplishment. I loved, I'm not sure what he was up to, but he got everybody stirred up and mad at him on Nino's goal. He had 2 guys sort of chasing him around the ice, and we took advantage of it. But Al, that's one thing about Al. He's such a all-purpose player. We use him on the penalty kill. He's out there with the power play. Then certainly when you need him to shut down the opposition, he does a great job. And he's a real good pro that gives. We know what we're getting every night from him.
So there was some praise from the coach for Alex Iafallo, one of the stars of the game last night. Also, I'm sure everyone's wondering, what does the coach think about Ville Heinola, first game back in a long time with the Winnipeg Jets? Here's what he had to say about the young blue liner who made his season debut last night in the lineup.
And I think he'd be first to admit that was fast for him. Like, that was heavy and fast, and but he got to get in and experience it. And like you said, he drew the penalty. But there's a lot of things he has patience and poise. We know that, especially on the breakouts, things like that. I think that there's a couple things where the speed, you kind of recognize that they're coming in a hurry. And but at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want to get his feet wet. To do it against that team that was with losing Sammy, for him to step in was huge.
All right, so some nice praise from Scott Arniel for Ville Heinola in his first game of the season. Here's one more from Marnie, just talking about bouncing back and getting into the win column against a very tough opponent on the road after the loss Saturday night to the Preds.
We're on the road. We're in a real tough building. We've been, as much as we're having success, we've been kind of following Minnie. We know what they've been up to. They've been playing some great hockey as well, and they're not going away. Well, I'm sure we'll run into each other here again. There's going to be, we'll see a lot more of them. But at the end of the day, like I said, hard building to play in. But I really like the way, as the game kept going on, we kept getting stronger, and building ourselves, into a real solid win at the end. And like you said, to respond from last night, that's just a real good sign.
My toe was hot. My glove was hot. I felt good. I felt good. I was seeing it. The guys were allowing me to see lanes and picking up sticks and picking up rebounds. So, great team effort tonight.
Yeah, and certainly you look at where the production comes from. Your fourth line gets that big goal in the first period, and Alex Iafallo has a great game, 2 goals, 100 on his career. Just what does he bring to this team? Have you seen as a teammate of his?
Yeah, they're so due. They've been playing so well all season long, and it's great to see that. Like we've always said, we got the depth and top from number 1 to number 12. All those forwards, they all can score, and they're all solid, and we need them all, and they've been really producing. And our back end's been great too. So, we've been using everyone. It's been fun to watch.
It's really become a calling card, isn't it, of this team that if you guys have a game that maybe you don't like, you don't let that linger for very long and typically come back with a pretty strong response.
Yeah, I like the third period a lot. I think we got back to our game, and we really shut them down and kept them out of it and kept them from getting any good looks and kept the momentum on our side. That's a sign of a good team.
All right, Helly for Hart. Spread the word. Connor Hellebuck there after his league-leading 15th win of the season, now leading all statistical categories for NHL goaltenders. While Hellebuck normally would have been the story coming out of a game like that, Alex Iafallo was maybe as equally a big part of the game. 2 goals last night and a central figure on the winner where he was dealing with Trennan and Joel Eriksson-Ek while Neil Pionk joined the rush and ended up putting together a beautiful play that ended up with a Nino Niederreiter goal. Iafallo in his big game, and of course getting back to Minnesota where he played his college hockey.
Obviously playing here in college a few times, familiar with the rink, and it's just always fun to come back to Minnesota and play some games. So, and it was a rival too for us, so everybody was up for it.
I take it you probably, other than your goaltender, didn't like a lot of what happened in that first period, but for you to get that goal to tie the game up, and just how big was that? And maybe just take us through the play Rasmus gets in on the forecheck.
Yeah, it's a big forecheck goal. I mean, that's what we're trying to do is just, put pressure on their D, and Rass and Bear did a great job getting there and getting it deep. So, it's a nice play. I just had to, shoot it. So, we're going to keep doing that and keep, be in the right spots, and got to help out Bucky. Has some pretty big saves out there, so we'll work on that.
All right, so there's Alex Iafallo looking pretty good for Movember right now. Nice duster there on Iafallo, and I will say, Remo, that first goal that he scored, obviously it's just a huge goal. I mean, to tie the game up at 1 with the Wild pressing the way that it was, and Iafallo scored a bunch of goals in different ways this year. That was an absolutely sick backhand.
Man, there was some power behind that thing.
Yeah.
Buried it. The art of the backhand. Don't see that too much. Of some great work down low. Gets in front of the net and just ripped it. So great game for AI, and nice to have that kind of talent, Huss, on the fourth line. You really saw the depth. We talked about it, the start of the show, how much those guys played, and I don't think you can say that. You look around the league, Huss, they don't have an Alex Iafallo down there, a player like that on the fourth line who could play up when called upon. Morgan Barron, he's a speedster, and Rasmus Kupari, I don't know if he's having like a breakout season, but he's got wheels and he can contribute from time to time.
Listen, I don't think Kupari has the hands that he's ever going to be a guy that is a significant scorer. But for the role that he's playing right now, I think it's absolutely a breakout season for him. Now, listen, he's playing with 2 very, very good players in Morgan Barron and Alex Iafallo, both players that I think in a different situation would be, absolutely capable of playing top 9 and potentially even top 6. Certainly Iafallo has done that in the past in previous stops. But call that line whatever you want, number-wise. They're a very effective line. They've earned the trust of the coaches, and they were out there in some of the most high-leverage minutes of the game last night and deserved every second of ice time. By the way, I saw Kabilis just drop in the chat. I'm calling it. I think AI scores against his old team. We will, tomorrow in the Coolbet lines, Kabilis, I promise we will get to Alex Iafallo goal prop, and I will ride with you on that. Listen, we'll get to the Coolbet lines in a minute. Here's a little bit more from Alex Iafallo Talked about his tip-in goal, and of course the Nino goal, which ended up being the winner, where he was sort of dealing with Trennan and Jeek while the rest of the Jets went and did their thing in the other end.
I barely touched it. It's a great shot from up top because we're just talking about getting pucks to net on the power right there, and especially at the end. We needed a goal to keep that momentum going. So Neil had a good break in from the start there, and Neil just had a great shot. So I just had to barely tip it there.
I wanted to ask you about the second goal. You don't get an assist officially on it, but you had attracted quite a crowd behind the play. What was sort of going on there, and did you kind of see the play developing the other way? Or
no, I just saw somebody hit Bucky, so I just kind of went in there and tried to clean it up around there. And I just looked down the ice, and the boys were scoring, so it was nice to just relax a bit after that.
That's one of those where I guess in hindsight you're thankful the officials kind of let the play continue as opposed to, say, sending guys off, right?
Yeah, it was a weird play, so luckily we had the offensive go-ahead there.
Honestly, Reem, I was out with some friends watching the game last night. That is right up there with my favorite goals of the entire year. And there's been a bunch to choose from. But the fact that the Wild got as engaged and off the job with Alex Iafallo to allow that to happen, and then the finish of the Jets from Pionk to Nino Niederreiter for such a huge goal in the game to get the lead at a time when the Wild were still sort of carrying the play. We're going to have to put that one on the list for our favorite top 10 Jets goals of the year because it was a combination of the Wild getting flustered and the Jets making them pay for it.
Yeah, I just, some of these guys on Minnesota just bother you, the way they play the game. And for that to go on AI, distracting two players, and, to have that goal where they enter the zone, Nemestikov's going in, doesn't see anything, circles back and finds a streaking Pionk who saw what was going on, said, hey, I'm going to go in. I'm going to be all alone. And then he finds Niederreiter, who makes a gorgeous, beautiful move, top cheese past Gustafsson. Just a gorgeous goal. And, yeah, it started off with Hellebuyck. I don't want to say stoning Middleton, Huss, because I think he kind of whiffed on it. But, hey, he was all alone, had a chance, and he didn't score, and that was what Hellebuyck did all night. But yes, Minnesota getting angry. Love to see it. I remember there was one time Kaprizov just fell on his own, and I thought Ryan Hartman was going to have to go have a word with the ice on being too slippery, because someone's got to pay if Kaprizov's falling over. They got to pay for it. You can't have a injured Kaprizov who he was game time decision. I don't think he made that. You mentioned that beautiful pass.
Dude,
behind
that
the back.
pass.
It was crazy.
That pass was so world class. I mean, I don't think Boldy could even believe it. And, that's why. But again, the positioning of Hellebuyck, once again, you can have a pass that 99.9% of the world is not capable of making, and you still got Hellebuyck there to shut the door. Here's just one more quick one from AI on getting a win over one of the biggest rivals of the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, it's a big step, but obviously we got to work on some things. But going forward, I think it's a big win for us, and especially on the road. Finishing off that third period is huge for us, and building that momentum of hard plays and doing it right to the end.
All right, Iafallo mentioning again the third period, and Reem, listen, if the game stayed the way the first period was played and the team got the win, you'd say, oh, man, you know what? Listen, you definitely will take the 2 points, but a lot to work on. I mean, hey, listen, the Minnesota Wild were the second best team in the league coming into last night. They're third right now behind the Jets in New Jersey. They were going to get theirs. The Jets held up, but, I mean, my big takeaway that gives me a lot of optimism of what this team can be capable of as they continue this road trip and looking ahead to the rest of the season, hopefully playoffs, was the way they were able to come out and squeeze the Wild with the lead in the third period. That is what good teams do, and they didn't have to hang it on number 37 in the third period. The Winnipeg Jets as a team took care of that themselves.
Oh, yeah. Just when you thought, Minnesota was going to have 60 shots on goal after recording just over 20 in the first period, the Jets found their game, were able to limit them in the third period, and that is what Rick Bowness would call pushback hustlers. So well done by the Jets. Relied on Hellebuyck for a bit, but not the entire game. And look, they have a superstar player in Connor Hellebuyck, and he's going to have games where he does superhuman things, and we certainly saw that yesterday, and it was pretty awesome to watch. But he's not flopping around making spectacular saves. He's just there and hits them. Like Kaprizov makes that behind the back pass, and he doesn't flinch. He just stands his ground, and they shoot it right into his pads over and over again. What did he say in the clip? His toe was working. Hot toe was working pretty
glove.
good. Yeah.
Listen, we are just lucky to be around for the Connor Hellebuyck era here in Winnipeg. And, with that extension just looks better every single game. Shesterkin's going to squeeze the Rangers for 11.5 or 12 mil, and Hellebuyck here for 6 more years after this one at 8.5. Arguably one of the best deals in the entire National Hockey League. Listen, there's a couple other things I do want to get to, but let's get to the Coolbet lines tonight because it is a short night, and I will remind any of you that have played with us before that haven't, tonight, 9 p.m., perfect night. No Jet game, no Oiler game, only 2 games on the slate. It is the 4th edition of the Lock Shop Poker Series. $100 bounty on my head, $100 bounty on Remis's head, $100 on Dusty, and $100 on Matt Iwanek. $30 entry. And on top of it all, they have added in for the top 2 finishers tonight an entry into another tournament where you can win your way to a big Coolbet poker event down in Costa Rica. So what you're going to want to do is go to coolbet.com, click on poker, and download Coolbet Poker onto your computer. It's a great platform for it. And then once you're in, click on tournaments. There'll be a little search function, a little magnifying glass. If you just put in lock, it'll come up right away. Register, and we'll see you tonight at 9 p.m. You can take your best shot at myself and Remis and the other guys with bounties on their heads and try and do what Michael Remis and Randy D, now a.k.a. Randy River, have done. That's finish in the top 2 and get that bonus prize of the entry for that trip that could potentially send you to Costa Rica. We'll look forward to seeing you guys tonight. We've got 2 games tonight in the NHL. We've got the Utah Hockey Club in Montreal to take on the Habs. Habs got booed off the ice in their last game. Utah has been struggling. Utah's a minus 133 favorite. The Habs plus 113. And then in the other game, it's the Vancouver Canucks at the Boston Bruins. Jake DeBrusk revenge game. The Bruins have won 2 in a row. They still can't score, though. They've got 3 goals in their last 2 games. They haven't scored more than 2 in 5 straight. And Vancouver gets Brock Besser back tonight. Canucks even money, Bruins minus 118. In the combo cards, we did do a little all-Canadian underdog parlay. We've got the Canucks to win and the Habs to win. That's boosted up to plus 375. If you want a better number and you do like the Canucks and Habs to get the win tonight. Now, over for the National Football League, we're getting ready for the big Thursday. Thanksgiving Day, south of the border. 3 big games. The Lions are 10-point favorites at home to the Bears. The Cowboys are 3.5-point favorites at home to the Giants. And then I think the real marquee game, obviously Detroit's the best team that's playing on Thursday, but the best matchup for sure is the night game. Miami at 5-6, going to Lambeau to take on the Packers. Miami 3.5-point underdogs. Looks like it's going to be a high of 0 that day, so should be below freezing when the game kicks off at night. And we know what Miami is like sometimes when it gets a little chilly. Big opportunity for the Packers, but a must-have-it game for the Miami Dolphins if they want to have a chance of catching the likes of Denver, Baltimore, or the Chargers for one of those wildcard spots. All those teams with 7 wins so far, and I guess Baltimore got their 8th last night. One other thing I should mention, and Remo, if you want to click on the promotions, and if you go down, the U.S. Thanksgiving Turkey Boost, before you make a Thursday bet, check this out. A 50% profit boost on any NFL bet placed for the big day. So get ready to gobble up the action all day long and watch your profits soar. There's no opt-in at all. All you need to do is go to Coolbet, make your selection. You'll be able to do the 50% profit boost once. So pick your favorite games. You can put it together. Once you've selected an eligible pre-match parlay, the 50% profit booster will be available to apply in your bet slip. And all you do is just tick the apply 50% profit boost back, and you'll see your extra potential winnings. Then kick back, enjoy the games, and hopefully cash a nice ticket. Again, that is for Thanksgiving Thursday, a special, one day only, one-time 50% profit boost available. I'm putting together the picks now. We'll get into it tomorrow on the Lock Shop with our selections for Thursday in the NHL. All right, Reem. Now, we do have to go because we want to get this podcast up. There'll be a lot of people that'll be waiting to hear the show, but we have to talk about this Biz Nasty business. You obviously heard about this last night. Biz taking on 7 dudes who were causing a disturbance in a Scottsdale restaurant. Pretty wild stuff. If you missed today's Spittin' Chicklets, I mean, I believe there's clips of it out, or you can watch it. But just a crazy, crazy scene where a former NHL enforcer is going toe-to-toe with 7 dudes. The greatest Biz line, and this will be legendary for years, when asked about it, he said, took some, gave more. But the names of these idiots that attacked him are now public. 6 guys arrested, 1 with felony charges. He said he got kicked in the head a number of times when he was down and ended up racing into his CVS with no shirt or shoes on at the end of it. And luckily, the Scottsdale police came in and made the arrangements. But I mean, shout out to Biz for being a guy to stand up when drunk assholes were causing a problem and threatening staff. But unfortunate to hear just how crazy this event got.
Yeah, he's at his favorite restaurant in Scottsdale, Houston's a family restaurant. There's a bar, very busy, and some drunk golfers came in demanding beverages, and there wasn't enough room, and one of them started getting in the manager's face, and Biz, who's frequents there, he said 3-4 times a week, knows the staff, and thought, hey, I got to step in because, these people aren't prepared to deal with these drunk idiots. And he said to one of the guys, hey, you better stop putting your finger in this manager's face or we're going to have some problems here. And they just started chucking. And they were throwing punches and eventually ended up outside. His shirt got ripped. And he said he got a couple shots in. And you could see the mugshots. He said he fell down at one point and used a term I had never heard before called getting boot fucked. That's when they kick you in the head while you're down, and knew that he couldn't get knocked out, because if he got knocked out, then there was trouble. Got up, escaped into the CVS. And yes, TMZ has some very high quality mugshots of these guys. And you look at
we need the video.
Yeah.
I texted you last night. I'm like, TMZ better be all over this right now.
Yeah,
it will come out for sure.
He said surveillance maybe in the parking lot where there's restaurants, but not quite in the restaurant maybe. But he said it lasted like 3 minutes. Again, his face looked fine. He said he got kicked in the throat once and he was taken to hospital, was fine. But these guys, this guy on the left looked like he's taken a couple. This guy on the bottom right, he's taken some. He said he clocked the bald guy and knocked him out. And this guy top middle, he's got some scars. I don't know. He looked fine, and these guys were probably pretty wasted and maybe easy targets. But anytime it's 1 versus 6, us.
Well, it
that's
wasn't like
tough.
he was going. He was just saying, stop being idiots and stop threatening and grabbing staff. And then they started punching him. I mean, this was not a long mediation of something that went a long time by all accounts. And listen, John Carroll, William Carroll, these guys, I don't know whether they're locals or whether they're on some sort of golf trip, but these morons are going to be in for not only charges, and I'll tell you what, of all the places to go to jail in the States, from what I've heard, Arizona, probably the worst state to be locked up in. But anyways, shout out to Biz for standing up to some people that needed it. Really sucks that it ended up the way that it did. But as I said, this is a guy that's taken a few over the course of his life. It's not the first time, although I can't imagine he's had many one-on-seven brawls. So anyways, good on Biz for that. You can check out the Chicklets today for more on that. And then just one other quick hockey note. Is it every single season that Carolina is like down to their third goalie like 2 months into the year?
Well,
it's crazy.
They have Freddie Anderson, and if you play fantasy, you know that he's getting injured every year. Now, last year, to be fair, he had a blood clot issue. It wasn't like a knee injury or something, but just whatever, it happens every year. So they're already down one, and Kochetkov, I think it was in overtime, one of their players got pushed into him, and he got knocked out. And he's out with a concussion. So now they're down to their third goalie, Spencer Martin. Kevin Weeks is saying Carolina in the market for a Tendy. I'm not quite sure who's available, but there is some trade talk going on. David Juracek won in Columbus. We're hearing rumors there. Elliot or Frank mentioning yesterday about that. I'm trying to think what else. And the Rangers, they had the Rangers over the weekend. It was Elliot reporting that they want to shake up their roster, naming Chris Kreider and Jacob Trouba. And how did the Rangers respond? They get pumped last night by the Blues and their new head coach, Jim Montgomery. So some off-ice stuff happening. I don't know if we'll see any trades, but a couple things there to note, over the weekend.
Yeah, no, the Rangers story is interesting. And listen, the Kings too. I mean, the Kings, by the way, just quickly on the Canes, Kochetkov, 10-2, 242 goals against, 904 save percentage. Great start. Freddie Anderson, now he only got into 4 games, but a 149 goals against average and a 941 save percentage. I mean, just had a phenomenal start to the year, but again, has only been able to get in 4 games on the season. So that's going to be something going forward. And then because, again, we mentioned the Rangers, despite a great start, looking to maybe make a significant shakeup, or maybe that's just something was floated out to wake up the fellas. But I can't wait for tomorrow as we get ready for Jets-Kings. Because the Kings so far have had, a pretty nice start when you look at where they are in the standings, Reem. They're right there in a playoff spot, third in the Pacific, 5 points behind Vegas, 11-8-3. But then you dig a little deeper and see how they've done against the better teams in the league. Something that the Jets were sort of accused of early on in the season. Well, they've now been beating some of the top teams in the league. The Kings have not been doing that. So, coming off a 7-2 loss to the San Jose Sharks last night, I imagine they will not be in a very, very nice mood. But just over the last little while, they've lost to the Sharks, beat the Kraken, lost to the Sabres at home, beat the Red Wings, lost to the Avs, lost to the Flames, beat the Blue Jackets, lost to the Canucks, before back-to-back wins in Minnesota and in Washington. And, of course, before that, a loss to the Blackhawks and another loss to the Sharks. So, we'll be talking about the trade aftermath, as always, where both of these teams are. Dennis Bernstein's going to join us from the 4th period in LA for that. Great show today. The vibes are high. The Jets are still on top of the league now with 6 points between them and the Minnesota Wild, and 10 over the Dallas Stars, who they'll see later on this trip. Tomorrow, our focus is on the Jets and the Los Angeles Kings. Join us live at 1 p.m. and just after 3 p.m. in your podcast inbox. Thanks again to all the sponsors that make this a show happen each and every day. Everyone in the chat today, great stuff from the crew as always. And of course, Sara Orlesky, Ken Wiebe, and Shane Malloy, who joined us on today's program. That's going to do it for us. Hopefully we'll see you tonight taking part in our poker tourney at Coolbet, 9 p.m. Search Lock Shop in the tournaments. We'll see you there. Good luck to everyone representing the Winnipeg side of things in this. And we'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. for another game day edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Have a great night, everyone.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.